Richard Patterson sat on the cold marble floor of his penthouse office, his back against the floor-to-ceiling window that usually showcased his success to the entire city. Tonight that view mocked him. Below, the city lights sparkled with possibility and life, but up here in this empty shell of an office, everything was dying. His laptop sat open in front of him, the screen displaying numbers that made his stomach turn. Red. Everything was red. Negative balances, failed transactions, corrupted files, and worst of all, a system error message that had locked him out of his own company's mainframe. 24 hours ago, Richard Patterson had been worth $300 million. His tech company, Patterson Solutions, had been the golden child of the industry, providing cloud security for major corporations across the country. Now, due to what his frantic IT team called catastrophic system failure, every client's data was compromised, contracts were being terminated, and lawsuits were being filed faster than he could count them. His investors had pulled out. His bank had frozen his accounts pending investigation. The building itself was being foreclosed on tomorrow morning. Richard pressed his palms against his eyes, trying to stop the headache that had been pounding for 18 hours straight. His hands shook. When had he last eaten? He could not remember. His entire team had left. Some quit, some he had to let go when he could not make payroll. His phone had died hours ago, but it did not matter anymore. There was no one left to call. The sound of keys jangling in the hallway made him lift his head. He had forgotten about the cleaning crew. They were probably here to empty the building before the new owners took possession. Richard considered hiding, but what was the point? Let them see him like this. Let them witness the great Richard Patterson, the boy genius who built an empire by age 32, now reduced to a broken man sitting on the floor of his former kingdom. The door opened and a woman stepped inside pushing a cleaning cart. She wore a simple blue uniform with her name embroidered on the pocket. Denise. Richard had seen her before during late nights at the office, always working quietly, always offering a kind smile when their paths crossed. She was beautiful, with warm brown skin that seemed to glow even in the harsh office lighting, natural hair pulled back in a neat bun, and eyes that sparkled with intelligence. She stopped when she saw him, her hand still on the door handle. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Richard waited for her to leave, to pretend she had not seen him in this humiliating state. Instead, she let the door close softly behind her and took a few steps into the room. "Mr. Patterson?" Her voice was gentle, concerned. "Are you all right?" Richard laughed, but it came out bitter and hollow. "Do I look all right?" Denise moved closer, leaving her cart by the door. She wore simple black pants and a blue polo shirt, practical sneakers, and no jewelry except for small silver earrings. Despite the plainness of her uniform, she carried herself with quiet dignity. She stopped a respectful distance away and crouched down so they were at eye level. "I heard about what happened," she said. "The whole building is talking about it." "I'm sorry." "Sorry does not fix anything," Richard muttered, gesturing at his laptop. "Nothing can fix this. I've lost everything. Tomorrow, I won't even be allowed in this building." Denise glanced at the laptop screen, her eyes scanning the error messages and failed code. She was quiet for a long moment, and Richard assumed she was trying to think of something comforting to say, some meaningless platitude about how things would get better. Instead, she surprised him. "May I look at your computer?" Richard blinked. "What?" "Your laptop. May I look at it?" She moved closer, already reaching for the device. "I might be able to help." "You're a janitor," Richard said, not unkindly, just stating a fact. "No offense, but this is beyond complicated. My entire IT department couldn't fix it." Denise paused, her hand hovering over the keyboard. She looked at him steadily. "I have a master's degree in computer science from MIT. I specialized in cybersecurity and systems architecture. I took this janitorial job 2 years ago because it pays enough to cover my sister's college tuition and has good health insurance. I work nights so I can freelance during the day. I've been watching your company's security infrastructure for months, Mr. Patterson. I know your systems better than you think. Have you ever been so desperate that you almost missed the miracle standing right in front of you? If you want to see how one moment of saying yes can change everything, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me, would you have accepted help from your janitor? Let me know below." Richard stared at her, speechless. He had walked past this woman hundreds of times, never once wondering about her story, her education, her dreams. She was always just there, part of the invisible workforce that kept his building clean. Shame washed over him, followed quickly by a desperate spark of hope. "If you can help." He started, then stopped. Pride wanted him to refuse, to protect what little dignity he had left. But Denise was right. He was desperate. What did he have to lose? Please, he said finally, moving aside so she could access the laptop. If there's anything you can do, I'll be forever grateful. Denise nodded and sat down cross-legged in front of the computer. She pulled it onto her lap, her fingers already flying across the keyboard with practiced ease. Richard watched as screens flashed by too quickly for him to follow. Code scrolled past, error messages appeared and disappeared, and through it all, Denise's expression remained calm and focused. When did this start? She asked without looking up. Yesterday afternoon. Right after a system update. Who pushed the update? My lead developer, Frank Morrison. But he quit this morning. Said the company was doomed and he wanted to get out before his reputation was ruined. Denise's fingers paused for just a moment, then continued typing. Interesting timing. What do you mean? I mean, Denise said, her eyes still on the screen, that catastrophic system failures don't usually happen randomly. They're caused. Give me a few minutes. I need to trace back through your update logs. Richard sat beside her, watching her work. The competent way she navigated his systems, the quick, decisive movements of her hands, the slight furrow of concentration between her eyebrows, all of it spoke of genuine expertise. How had he never known? How had he never asked? You said you have a sister in college? He asked quietly, wanting to fill the tense silence. Amber. She's studying pre-med at State University. Smart as they come, but scholarships only cover so much. Denise opened another window, scrolling through lines of code. Our parents died in a car accident 6 years ago. Amber was only 16. I've been taking care of her ever since. That must be difficult. We make it work. Denise leaned closer to the screen, her eyes narrowing. Got you. Got what? The source of your problem. She turned the laptop so Richard could see, pointing to a section of highlighted code. See this? It's a logic bomb. Someone deliberately embedded malicious code in your system update. It was designed to activate 24 hours after installation and corrupt your entire database. Very sophisticated, very deliberate. This wasn't an accident, Mr. Patterson. Someone sabotaged your company. Richard felt cold spread through his chest. Frank. It had to be Frank. But why? Money probably. Corporate espionage. Maybe a competitor paid him. Maybe he was planning to short your stock. Does it matter? Denise was already typing again. The question is, can we fix it? Can we? For the first time since she started working, Denise looked up and met his eyes. She smiled, and it transformed her entire face, lighting up the empty office with warmth and confidence. Mr. Patterson, I didn't spend 6 years studying cybersecurity just to clean offices. Yes, we can fix this. But I'm going to need your help, and we're going to have to work through the night. Your investor meeting is at 8 in the morning, right? How did you know about that? I hear things when I'm emptying trash bins. People forget janitors have ears. She handed him the laptop. I need you to call your bank and authorize me as an emergency IT consultant. I'll need access to your servers, your backups, and your administrative controls. Can you do that? Richard pulled out his phone, relief flooding through him for the first time in a day. I'll do whatever it takes. Good. And Mr. Patterson? Yes. Call me Denise. We're going to be working closely together tonight. We might as well be on first-name basis. Richard nodded, already dialing his bank's emergency line. As he spoke to the security team, explaining the situation and providing authorization codes, he watched Denise set up her workspace on his office floor. She pushed aside the expensive furniture like it meant nothing, creating a practical command center with his laptop, a notepad, and a determined expression. For the first time in 24 hours, Richard Patterson felt something other than despair. He felt hope. And he felt something else too, something he could not quite name yet but that warmed the cold emptiness inside him. Gratitude certainly. Respect absolutely. But there was more to it, something in the way Denise moved with quiet confidence, something in her willingness to help a stranger who had never noticed her before. Whatever it was, he knew his life had just changed in ways he could not yet understand. And it had all started with saying yes to an unexpected offer of help from the most unlikely source. The janitor who turned out to be his salvation. Denise worked with the focused intensity of a surgeon performing a critical operation. Richard sat beside her, following her instructions, pulling up files, running diagnostic programs, and providing passwords and access codes whenever she needed them. The massive office, which had felt so empty and cold an hour ago, now hummed with purpose and possibility. Hand me that notepad, Denise said, pointing without taking her eyes off the screen. Richard grabbed it and watched as she sketched out a network diagram, mapping out the corrupted pathways in his system. Her handwriting was neat and precise, each notation carefully labeled. "You said you freelance during the day?" Richard asked as he watched her work. "What kind of projects do you take on?" "Mostly security audits for small businesses. I help them identify vulnerabilities before hackers do. It does not pay as much as corporate work, but it's steady and I can do it from home between taking care of Amber and sleeping." She circled something on her diagram. "Your backup system, does it run automatic saves every 6 hours?" "Yes, but Frank said the backups were corrupted too. That's why everyone panicked." Frank lied. Denise turned the laptop toward him, showing him a hidden directory. "Look, your backups are fine. He just moved them and changed the file extension so your team couldn't find them. The corruption only affected your live database. If I can restore from backup and patch the vulnerability he created, we can have your system running clean within a few hours." Richard felt his throat tighten with emotion. "You're sure?" "Positive. It's going to take time and concentration, but yes, I'm sure." She pulled the laptop back and started typing again, her fingers dancing across the keys. "Why don't you tell me about your company? Help me understand what makes Patterson Solutions special." Richard leaned back against the window, grateful for something productive to do while she worked. "I started the company 8 years ago after graduating from college. I was 24 and convinced I could build better security software than anything on the market. Everyone said I was crazy. Banks wouldn't give me loans. Investors laughed me out of their offices. I maxed out every credit card I had and built the first version of our software in my apartment." "What made you so sure you could do it?" Denise asked, her eyes still on the screen but her tone genuinely curious. "Because I understood something others didn't. Security isn't about building higher walls. It's about being smarter than the people trying to break in. It's about thinking 3 steps ahead, anticipating attacks before they happen, creating systems that adapt and learn." He watched her work, noting the elegant efficiency of her process. "Kind of like what you're doing right now." Denise smiled slightly. "We think alike then. I always believed the best defense is understanding your enemy. Not just their tools but their psychology. Why they attack, what they want, how they think." Frank's mistake was being predictable. Logic bombs are effective but they follow patterns. Once you know what to look for, you can trace them back to their source. "You make it sound simple." "It's not simple. It's just logical." She opened another window, revealing more corrupted code. "But logic only gets you so far. You also need intuition, the ability to see patterns others miss. That's what separates good programmers from great ones." They worked in companionable silence for a while, the only sounds the clicking of keys and the occasional question from Denise. Richard found himself studying her profile as she worked, the way she bit her lower lip when concentrating, the way her eyes lit up when she solved a particularly tricky problem. She had pulled off her uniform polo at some point, revealing a simple green t-shirt underneath. Professional, practical, unpretentious. "Can I ask you something?" Richard said after a while. "Sure. Why did you help me? We've barely spoken before tonight. You owed me nothing. Why didn't you just do your job and leave?" Denise's fingers slowed but didn't stop. She thought for a moment before answering. "I've spent 2 years watching people walk past me like I'm invisible. Not just you, everyone in this building. The executives, the developers, the managers. To them, I'm just the cleaning lady. They have important conversations around me like I'm not even there. They complain about problems I could solve, but they never think to ask." She saved her work and finally looked at him. "Tonight I saw someone who needed help. Someone who was clearly suffering. And I realized I had the skills to make a difference. How could I not offer?" Most people would have walked away. Then most people are missing the point of being human. Denise stretched her arms above her head, working out the stiffness from sitting on the floor. "My mama used to say, baby, kindness isn't about what people deserve. It's about who you choose to be." She lived that every day until the accident took her. I try to honor her by doing the same. Richard felt something shift in his chest, a warmth spreading through the cold numbness that had consumed him all day. "Your mother sounds like she was an amazing woman." She was. So was my daddy. They were good people who worked hard and loved harder. They taught me that your circumstances don't define you. Your choices do. She turned back to the laptop. "Now, enough philosophy. We've got work to do. I'm about to start the restoration process. This is going to take about 90 minutes and I'll need your full attention. Ready?" "Ready," Richard said, moving closer so he could see the screen clearly. For the next hour and a half they worked as a seamless team. Denise directed, Richard executed. She would identify a problem, explain what needed to happen, and he would pull up the necessary systems or provide the access she required. It was like watching a master conductor lead an orchestra, every movement purposeful, every decision calculated. How did you learn all this? Richard asked during a brief pause while a program ran. MIT must have been incredible, but this level of expertise, this intuition that goes beyond classroom learning. You're right. School taught me the fundamentals, but real learning happens in the field. I've been taking apart computers since I was 10 years old. My daddy was a mechanic and he taught me that everything is just a puzzle waiting to be understood. Cars, computers, people, they all have logic to them. You just have to be patient enough to see it. And your sister? Is she as technically minded as you? Denise's whole face softened when talking about Amber. Amber's brilliant, but in a completely different way. She wants to help people directly, face to face. Medicine is perfect for her. She has this gift for making people feel heard and cared for. She's going to be an amazing doctor. You must be proud. Beyond proud. Terrified too, if I'm being honest. Medical school is expensive, and even with scholarships and loans, it's going to be a struggle. But we'll figure it out. We always do. The restoration program beeped, indicating completion. Denise leaned forward, her eyes scanning the results. A slow smile spread across her face. Richard, look at this. He moved closer, studying the screen. Where before there had been pages of error messages and corrupted files, now there were row after row of green checkmarks. System operational. Database restored. Security protocols active. Is that what I think it is? Richard whispered, afraid to believe it. Your company's back online. Full functionality restored. Denise pulled up the main dashboard, showing him the clean, functioning system. Your client data is secure and intact. Your financial records are recovered. Everything Frank destroyed, we've rebuilt. Well, I rebuilt it. You helped admirably. Richard stared at the screen, hardly daring to breathe. It was real. His company was saved. Relief crashed over him like a physical wave, and he felt his eyes burn with unexpected tears. He quickly wiped them away, embarrassed to show such emotion. Hey, Denise said softly, touching his arm gently. It's okay. You're allowed to feel things. I can't believe you did this, Richard managed, his voice rough. In one night, you solved a problem my entire team couldn't figure out. You saved everything. We did it together, Denise corrected, but she was smiling. Though I'll admit I did most of the heavy lifting. Richard laughed, the sound strange and wonderful after a day of despair. He looked at Denise, really looked at her, seeing not just the janitor in the blue uniform but the extraordinary woman beneath. The genius who had been invisible, the hero who had been overlooked, the angel who had appeared exactly when he needed her most. Denise Williams, he said formally, I want to offer you a job. Not as a consultant, not as a contractor, but as a permanent member of Patterson Solutions. Chief Technology Officer, effective immediately. I'll triple whatever you're making now, full benefits, stock options, and complete autonomy over our security infrastructure. You literally saved my company tonight. Let me give you the position you deserve. Denise's eyes widened. For a moment she said nothing, and Richard worried he had overstepped, that she would refuse, that pride or doubt or fear would make her say no. But then her face broke into the most beautiful smile he had ever seen. Yes, she said simply. Yes, I accept. With gratitude and a little bit of shock, but yes. Absolutely yes. Richard grinned, feeling lighter than he had in months. Thank you. You have no idea what this means. Oh, I think I do. Denise stood up, offering him her hand to help him to his feet. It means I can stop scrubbing toilets and start building systems. It means Amber's tuition is secure. It means I get to do what I actually trained for instead of hiding my skills to make ends meet. So no, Mr. Patterson, thank you. They shook hands, the gesture formal but warm. As their hands clasped, Richard felt a connection he couldn't quite explain, something beyond professional respect or grateful relief. It felt like the beginning of something important, something that would change both their lives in ways neither of them could yet imagine. We should probably test everything before your investor meeting, Denise said, pulling her hand back and returning to the laptop. Run full diagnostics, make sure there are no hidden vulnerabilities, prepare a presentation showing the system is stable and secure. You're going to need to explain what happened and how you fixed it. You mean how you fixed it? No, Denise said firmly, looking him straight in the eye. We fixed it. Together. That's how we're going to move forward. As partners. As a team. I don't need all the credit, Richard. I just need the opportunity to keep doing good work. Richard nodded, understanding dawning. This was who Denise was, someone who valued substance over recognition, results over glory. It was a refreshing change from the ego-driven developers he usually worked with, the ones who needed constant praise and validation. Partners then, he agreed. Now show me what diagnostics we need to run. I have a feeling we're going to be here until dawn, but for the first time in 24 hours I don't mind at all. They returned to work, side by side on the office floor, two people from completely different worlds brought together by crisis and connected by something deeper than circumstance. Outside the windows, the city continued its endless motion, oblivious to the small miracle happening in the empty penthouse office. But Richard Patterson and Denise Williams knew. They had witnessed the moment when everything changed, when an offer was made and accepted without hesitation, when kindness and skill combined to save not just the company, but two lives heading in new, unexpected directions. And it was only just beginning. At 3 a.m, Richard made coffee in the small break room kitchenette while Denise ran another round of system checks. His hands were steadier now, his mind clearer than it had been in days. Hope was a powerful antidote to despair, he realized. Just hours ago, he had been sitting on the floor ready to surrender everything. Now, thanks to the extraordinary woman working in his office, he had a fighting chance. He carried 2 mugs back to the office, handing one to Denise. She accepted it with a grateful smile, wrapping her hands around the warm ceramic. Thank you. I usually run on about 4 hours of sleep a night, but I'll admit, this is pushing even my limits. She took a sip, closing her eyes briefly. Perfect. How did you know I'd take it with just a little cream and no sugar? Richard shrugged, settling back down beside her. Lucky guess. You seem like someone who likes things straightforward, no unnecessary extras. Good intuition. Denise set the mug aside and pulled up a new screen. Speaking of intuition, I've been thinking about Frank Morrison. If he planted this code, he had to have been planning it for weeks, maybe months. Do you remember him acting strangely? Any unusual requests for access or changes in behavior? Richard thought back, trying to remember details through the fog of exhaustion and stress. Now that you mention it, about 3 months ago he asked for expanded administrative privileges. Said he needed them to streamline some updates. I approved it without thinking much about it. He was my lead developer. I trusted him. That was probably when he started laying the groundwork. Denise made notes on her pad. He would have needed high-level access to embed code this deep in your system. The question is, was he working alone or for someone else? Does it matter at this point? The damage is done. It matters because if someone paid him to sabotage you, they might try again with someone else. We need to build in protections, create checks and balances so no single person has enough access to bring down the whole system. She pulled up the security protocols. This is going to be one of my first priorities as CTO. Making sure this never happens again. Richard watched her work, impressed by her forward thinking. She wasn't just fixing the immediate problem. She was already planning for the future, thinking strategically about long-term security. It was exactly the kind of leadership his company needed. Tell me about Amber, he said, wanting to learn more about the person behind the professional competence. What's she like? Denise's expression softened immediately. She's sunshine in human form. Optimistic, energetic, always seeing the best in people. Where I'm cautious and analytical, she's open and emotional. We balance each other out. She smiled at some private memory. When our parents died, I was terrified I wouldn't be able to raise her right, that I was too young and too broken to be what she needed. But Amber, she helped me heal as much as I helped her. She kept me going on the days when I wanted to give up. She sounds special. She is. She's the reason I took the janitorial job instead of holding out for something in my field. I needed steady income and health insurance immediately, and cleaning services were hiring. Pride isn't worth much when your baby sister needs food and a roof over her head. Denise ran another diagnostic, watching the progress bar fill. Some of my old classmates from MIT thought I was crazy. They're all working at big tech companies now, making 6 figures. But I don't regret my choice. Family comes first. That kind of loyalty is rare, Richard said quietly. Most people I know would choose career over family every time. Then they don't know what actually matters. Denise glanced at him. What about you? Any family? Richard hesitated, the question touching on wounds he rarely examined. My parents are alive, but we're not close. They're both lawyers, very successful, very focused on status and achievement. When I dropped out of college to start my company, they disowned me. Said I was throwing away my future. We haven't spoken in 5 years. I'm sorry. That must hurt. It did. Now it just is. Richard sipped his coffee, surprised at how easy it was to talk to her. I threw myself into building the company, proving them wrong, showing everyone who doubted me that I could succeed on my own terms. But success can be lonely when you have no one to share it with. Is that why you work such long hours? I've seen your car in the parking garage at 2, 3 in the morning plenty of times. You noticed? I notice a lot of things people think are invisible. Denise saved her work and stretched again. Loneliness is dangerous, Richard. Success without connection is just an expensive way to be miserable. Trust me, I know. I've been so focused on taking care of Amber and making ends meet that I haven't had time for friends or relationships. Some days, the only adult conversations I have are with the security guard when I arrive at work. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, two lonely people who had found unexpected understanding in each other. The office felt smaller somehow, more intimate, as if the vast space had contracted to just the circle of light from the laptop screen. Diagnostic complete, Denise announced, breaking the moment. Everything's clean. No hidden code, no lurking problems. Your system is solid. That's amazing. What's left to do? We need to prepare your presentation for the investor meeting. You'll need to explain what happened, how it was resolved, and what measures you're putting in place to prevent future incidents. We have about 4 hours. Let's make them count. They worked together to build a comprehensive presentation, combining Richard's understanding of the business side with Denise's technical expertise. She taught him how to explain complex security concepts in simple terms, how to rebuild investor confidence, how to turn a crisis into an opportunity to demonstrate strength and resilience. Your investors don't just want to hear that the problem is fixed, Denise explained as they refined the slides. They want to know you learned from it, that you're coming out stronger. Emphasize the new security measures, the oversight protocols, the investment you're making in protecting their interests. Make them believe that this crisis was actually the best thing that could have happened because it revealed vulnerabilities you can now address. That's brilliant, Richard said, making notes. You should be in the meeting with me. Present the technical side directly to the investors. Denise looked down at her janitorial uniform, then back at him with raised eyebrows. In this? Richard checked his watch. 4:30 in the morning. The stores wouldn't open for hours, but he had an idea. My executive assistant keeps a spare outfit in her office for emergencies. You two look about the same size. Would you be comfortable borrowing it? You want me to present to your investors? I want my new chief technology officer to explain to our investors how she saved the company. Yes, absolutely, I want you there. Denise bit her lip, uncertainty crossing her face for the first time that night. Richard, I appreciate the confidence, but I'm not exactly polished in corporate presentations. I clean offices, remember? I don't have experience with boardrooms and investor meetings. You have a master's from MIT and you just performed a technological miracle. You're exactly who should be in that room. Richard stood and offered her his hand. Come on. Let's find you something to wear. Then we'll practice your presentation until you could do it in your sleep. You've carried us this far, Denise. Let me help you cross the finish line. What if the biggest risk isn't failing but never getting the chance to show what you're capable of? If you're enjoying this story and want to see what happens next, please subscribe and leave a comment. Tell me, have you ever been underestimated? How did you prove them wrong? Denise looked at his outstretched hand, then at the laptop showing the restored system, then back at his face. He saw her take a deep breath, squaring her shoulders with determination. She placed her hand in his and stood. Okay, let's do this. But if I embarrass you in front of billionaire investors, you can't say I didn't warn you. Richard laughed. Denise, you couldn't embarrass me if you tried. You're the hero of this story. Now let's make sure everyone knows it. They walked through the quiet building, their footsteps echoing in the empty corridors. Richard's assistant's office was on the floor below, a neat space that reflected her organized personality. He found the spare outfit in the closet, a maroon blazer, cream blouse, and black dress pants. Professional, polished, perfect. Try these on, he said, handing them to Denise. I'll wait outside. Let me know if they fit. A few minutes later, Denise emerged, transformed. The uniform was gone, replaced by sharp professional attire that highlighted her natural grace and dignity. She had let her hair down from its bun, and it framed her face in soft curls. She looked powerful and beautiful, every bit the executive she was about to become. Well, she asked, doing a small turn. Will I pass inspection? You look perfect, Richard said, and meant it with his whole heart. Now let's go practice. We have 3 hours to turn you into a presentation pro. They returned to the office and spent the remaining hours rehearsing. Richard played the role of skeptical investor, throwing hard questions at Denise while she practiced her responses. At first, she was nervous, stumbling over technical jargon and apologizing for her inexperience. But gradually, as the sky outside began to lighten with approaching dawn, she found her rhythm. Her natural intelligence and passion for the subject matter shone through. She learned to simplify without dumbing down, to project confidence without arrogance, to connect with her audience while maintaining authority. "That was perfect," Richard said after her final run-through. "Denise, you're ready?" "More than ready. You're going to be amazing." Denise smiled, but he could see the nerves in her eyes. "I hope you're right. I've never done anything like this before. Neither had I the first time I pitched to investors. I was terrified. But you know what I learned? People respond to authenticity and competence. You have both in spades. Just be yourself, speak from your knowledge, and trust that you belong in that room." "Do I, though? Belong there?" Denise looked out the window at the awakening city. 12 hours ago I was a janitor. Now I'm about to present to millionaire investors wearing borrowed clothes and talking about a job I've never actually done. What if they see right through me? What if they think I'm a fraud?" Richard moved to stand beside her, following her gaze across the skyline. "You're not a fraud. You're someone who has worked twice as hard as anyone else just to get half as far. You're someone who sacrificed her career to take care of her family. You're someone who stayed humble and kind even when the world overlooked you. And when given the chance, you proved you're brilliant beyond measure. That's not fraud. That's triumph." Denise turned to look at him, and Richard saw tears glimmering in her eyes. "Thank you. For believing in me. For giving me this chance. I won't let you down." "You couldn't if you tried," Richard said softly. "Now we have 30 minutes until the investors arrive. Let's get some fresh coffee, review the presentation one more time, and prepare to show them what Patterson Solutions is really made of." As they walked together toward the conference room, Richard realized that somewhere during this long, strange night, something fundamental had shifted. He had started the evening as a desperate man facing ruin. He was ending it as someone who had found not just salvation but purpose. Denise had saved his company, yes, but she had done something more important. She had reminded him what really mattered: integrity, kindness, recognizing worth in unexpected places, lifting up those who had been pushed down. The sun broke over the horizon, flooding the office with golden light. A new day was beginning, bringing with it challenges and opportunities neither of them could yet foresee. But they would face it together, the billionaire and the janitor who turned out to be so much more. Partners in business and, perhaps, in something deeper that was only just beginning to bloom. The conference room looked immaculate, the long mahogany table polished to a mirror shine. Ironic, Richard thought, that he was about to fight for his company's survival in a room Denise had probably cleaned 100 times. He adjusted his tie, trying to calm the nervous energy coursing through him. Beside him, Denise sat perfectly still, her hands folded on the table, her expression composed. If she was nervous, she hid it remarkably well. "They'll be here any minute," Richard said, checking his watch. "Are you sure you're ready?" "No," Denise admitted with a slight smile. "But I'm going to do it anyway. Sometimes courage is just fear that decided to show up." Before Richard could respond, the door opened and his 3 primary investors walked in. Thomas Bradford, a silver-haired venture capitalist in his 60s, Janet Morrow, a sharp-eyed technology investor in her 40s, and Kevin Park, a younger investor known for his aggressive business tactics. They looked skeptical and guarded, exactly as Richard had expected. "Patterson," Thomas said, taking a seat at the far end of the table. "I'll be honest. We're here as a courtesy, but we've already started the process of writing off our investment. Unless you have something extraordinary to show us, this is goodbye." "I understand your concern," Richard said, standing to activate the presentation screen. "And I appreciate you coming. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce Denise Williams, Patterson Solutions' new Chief Technology Officer." 3 pairs of eyes turned to Denise with varying degrees of surprise and suspicion. Richard could see them taking in her appearance, noting the borrowed clothes, wondering who this unknown woman was and why she was suddenly in such a critical role. "CTO?" Janet said, her tone carefully neutral. "I wasn't aware you were hiring. Given the circumstances, that seems like an unusual decision." "The circumstances are exactly why I hired her," Richard replied. "Denise is the person who saved this company. Last night, while the rest of the tech world wrote us off, she identified the source of our system failure, repaired the damage and restored full functionality. She's also the person who's going to make sure nothing like this ever happens again." Kevin leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. "No offense, Ms. Williams, but I've never heard of you. Where did you work before this? What's your background? Denise met his gaze steadily. I have a master's degree in computer science and cybersecurity from MIT. For the past 2 years, I've been working as a night janitor in this building while freelancing security audits during the day. Before you ask why, the answer is simple. I needed stable income and benefits to support my younger sister through college. The janitorial position offered both. The room went silent. Richard watched the investors process this information, saw the moment they moved from skepticism toward genuine curiosity. Thomas leaned forward, his expression thoughtful. You're telling me our IT team couldn't solve the problem, but a janitor with an MIT degree did? Former janitor, Richard corrected. And yes, that's exactly what I'm telling you. Now, if you'll give Denise the floor, she'll explain exactly how she did it and what it means for the future of this company. Denise stood, her movements graceful and confident. She clicked to the first slide of the presentation, and Richard saw her transformation in real time. The nervousness melted away, replaced by the focused competence he had witnessed during the night. This was her element, the place where her brilliance could finally shine. Good morning, she began, her voice clear and steady. Yesterday at approximately 2:15 p.m., Patterson Solutions experienced what appeared to be a catastrophic system failure. Your investment looked like a total loss. I'm here to tell you why it isn't, why we're actually stronger now than we were before, and why this company is about to enter the most secure and prosperous phase of its existence. For the next 20 minutes, Denise walked the investors through everything. She explained the logic bomb Frank Morrison had planted, demonstrated how she had traced and removed it, showed the restored systems running at full capacity, and outlined the new security protocols she would be implementing. She used simple language without being condescending, answered technical questions with ease, and projected an air of absolute authority. Richard watched the investor's body language shift as she spoke. Arms uncrossed. Posture straightened. Janet started taking notes. Thomas nodded along with key points. Even Kevin's suspicious expression softened into something approaching respect. The truth is, Denise concluded, this attack exposed vulnerabilities that had existed in your system for years. If Frank hadn't tried to destroy the company, you might have continued operating with these weaknesses until someone much more dangerous exploited them. In that sense, this crisis was a gift. It forced us to rebuild from the foundation up, creating something exponentially more secure. Patterson Solutions isn't dying. It's being reborn, stronger and smarter than before. She clicked to the final slide, which showed projected growth curves and security metrics. With these new protocols in place and with proper oversight that prevents any single employee from having too much control, I guarantee this company will not only survive but thrive. Your investment is safe. More than safe. It's positioned to triple in value over the next 3 years. Denise sat down and for a moment no one spoke. Richard held his breath, waiting for the verdict. Then Thomas started clapping, slow and genuine. Janet joined in, then Kevin. The sound filled the conference room, and Richard saw Denise's shoulders relax slightly, a small smile touching her lips. Ms. Williams, Thomas said, that was one of the most impressive presentations I've seen in 30 years of investing. You've not only addressed our concerns but given us new reasons to be excited about this company. The question I have now is not whether to pull our investment, but whether to increase it. I agree, Janet added. Richard, I'll be honest. I came here planning to cut our losses. Now I'm wondering if we should be doubling down. If this is the caliber of talent you're bringing on board, Patterson Solutions has a very bright future. Kevin was the last to speak, and his words carried the most weight because of his initial skepticism. I've made a career out of identifying potential and cutting weak links. Ms. Williams, you're easily one of the most impressive technical minds I've encountered. The fact that you were cleaning offices instead of running a tech company tells me something is seriously wrong with how this industry evaluates talent. But it also tells me Richard is smart enough to recognize value others miss. I'm in. 100%. Richard felt relief wash over him so intensely he nearly laughed. They had done it. Against impossible odds, they had salvaged everything. He looked at Denise and saw her wiping away a single tear, her professional composure cracking just slightly to reveal the emotional weight she had been carrying. Thank you, Richard said to the investors. I can't tell you what this means. We won't let you down. See that you don't, Thomas said, but his tone was warm. Ms. Williams, I'd like to schedule a follow-up meeting with you next week. I have some thoughts on scaling your security protocols across our entire portfolio. Would you be interested in consulting? Absolutely, Denise replied. I'd be honored. The investors stood, shaking hands all around. As they left the conference room, Richard heard Janet telling Thomas, "That woman is going places. Mark my words, in 5 years she'll be running her own company." When the door finally closed and they were alone, Richard turned to Denise. For a moment they just looked at each other, the enormity of what they had accomplished settling over them like a blanket. "You were incredible," Richard said. "I mean it. You absolutely crushed that presentation." "We did it," Denise whispered. "Richard, we actually did it. The company is saved. Your investment is secure. I have a real job in my field. I can pay for Amber's school without working 3 jobs. This is real, right? I'm not dreaming. It's real." Richard moved closer, wanting to hug her but unsure if it would be appropriate. Denise solved the problem by throwing her arms around him in an embrace that was pure joy and relief. He hugged her back, feeling her shake with silent laughter. "Thank you," she said, pulling back slightly but keeping her hands on his shoulders. "For taking a chance on me. For believing I could do this when I barely believed in myself. For seeing past the uniform to the person underneath. You changed my life, Richard." "No," Richard said softly. "You changed mine. Last night I was ready to give up on everything. You reminded me what's possible when you say yes to unlikely opportunities. When you recognize that brilliance comes in unexpected packages. When you value character as much as credentials." They stood there in the conference room, the morning sun streaming through the windows, 2 people who had started the previous evening as strangers and were now bound together by shared triumph. Something passed between them in that moment, an unspoken understanding that this was more than just a business relationship. This was the beginning of a genuine connection, built on mutual respect and recognition of each other's true worth. "So," Denise said, finally stepping back and smoothing down her borrowed blazer, "what happens now?" "Now?" Richard smiled. "Now we get you an actual office instead of a janitor's closet. Now we start implementing all those brilliant security protocols you designed. Now we begin the process of building Patterson Solutions into the company it was always meant to be. And now you go home and sleep because I can see the exhaustion in your eyes even if you're too proud to admit it. What about you? You haven't slept either." "I'll sleep later. First, I need to call HR and make your position official. I need to contact our clients and reassure them their data is secure. I need to start the process of replacing Frank Morrison with people we can actually trust." "But Denise." He caught her hand gently. "None of it feels overwhelming anymore. Yesterday I was drowning. Today, I know I have the best partner I could ask for. That makes all the difference." Denise squeezed his hand, then let go, maintaining the professional boundary even as personal feelings began to quietly bloom. "Then let's get to work. But first, coffee. Lots and lots of coffee." They left the conference room together, side by side, equals in every way that mattered. As they walked through the building, Richard noticed employees beginning to arrive for the day. Several did double takes when they saw Denise in professional attire rather than her usual uniform. He saw confusion, curiosity, and in some faces, a dawning realization that something significant had changed. "People are staring," Denise murmured. "Let them stare. They're about to learn what I learned last night, that the most important person in this building was invisible to them. That's going to be an uncomfortable lesson for some people, but a necessary one." They reached the executive floor and Richard showed Denise to the office that would be hers. It was spacious and bright, with windows overlooking the city and enough room for all the equipment she would need. She stood in the doorway taking it all in and Richard saw tears threatening again. "This is really mine?" she asked quietly. "All yours. Decorate it however you want. Fill it with whatever makes you happy and helps you work best. This is your space now, Denise. Your kingdom." She walked into the office, running her hand along the edge of the desk, looking out the window at the view she had only seen before while cleaning glass. Richard leaned against the doorframe, content to watch her process this transformation, this leap from invisible to invaluable. "You know what's funny?" Denise said, still looking out the window. "I used to clean this office. It belonged to your former CFO before he retired last month. I would vacuum the carpet and dust the shelves and look at that view and think about how different my life might be if I had been given chances instead of obstacles. Now here I am, standing in an executive office about to do the work I was trained for, making a salary that will change everything for me and Amber. It's almost too much to process." "Process it slowly," Richard advised. "But know that you earned this. Every bit of it. This isn't charity or luck. This is merit finally being recognized and rewarded." Denise turned to face him, her expression serious. "I'm going to make you proud, Richard. I'm going to build a security infrastructure so strong that Patterson Solutions becomes the gold standard in the industry. I'm going to prove that your faith in me wasn't misplaced. I have no doubts, Richard said. None at all. Now go home, Denise. Hug your sister. Sleep in your own bed. Come back Monday morning ready to start changing the world. You've earned a weekend off. What about you? I'll be fine. I'll tie up loose ends, then probably crash for about 12 hours straight. He smiled. Besides, I need to prepare myself for Monday. Having a CTO as brilliant as you means I'm going to have to work twice as hard to keep up. Denise laughed, the sound light and free. Something tells me you'll manage. She gathered her things, the borrowed outfit replaced with her cleaned and pressed uniform from the previous night. As she walked past him toward the elevator, she paused. Richard. Yes. I'm glad I stopped to help you. I'm glad I didn't just walk away. Whatever happens from here, I want you to know that last night was the best night of my life. Not because of the job or the money, though that's wonderful, but because I got to feel capable and valued and seen. Thank you for giving me that. Richard felt his throat tighten with emotion. Denise, you gave me something too. You gave me hope. You reminded me that the world has good people in it, people who help because it's the right thing to do, not because they want something in return. That's a gift I'll never forget. They shared a smile, then Denise stepped into the elevator. As the doors closed, Richard stood in the hallway, feeling like a different man than he had been 24 hours earlier. The company was saved. The investors were happy. And he had found someone extraordinary, someone who would shape the future of Patterson Solutions in ways he was only beginning to understand. But more than that, he had found a friend. And if the feelings stirring in his heart were any indication, perhaps something even more precious than that. Only time would tell. For now, it was enough to know that saying yes to an unexpected offer had changed everything. The future looked bright, and for the first time in a long time, Richard Patterson looked forward to seeing what came next. Monday morning arrived with brilliant autumn sunshine and a crispness in the air that felt like possibility. Richard stood in his office, which had been transformed over the weekend by a cleaning crew and an interior designer working overtime. Gone were the signs of Friday's despair. The space now gleamed with renewed energy, ready for the fresh start ahead. He checked his watch. 8:45. Denise would arrive any minute for her first official day as Chief Technology Officer. Richard had spent the weekend thinking about her more than he probably should have, replaying their conversation, remembering the way her eyes lit up when she solved a problem, the sound of her laugh, the quiet dignity with which she carried herself. He told himself it was just admiration, professional respect for an exceptional colleague. But his racing pulse when the elevator dinged suggested something more complicated. The elevator doors opened, and Denise stepped out wearing a sharp blue pantsuit that Richard suspected was new. Her hair was styled in a professional updo, and she carried a leather briefcase that looked similarly fresh from the store. But what struck him most was her expression, pure joy mixed with determined confidence. This was a woman ready to claim her place in the world she had earned. "Good morning," Richard said, walking to meet her. "You look fantastic. Ready for your first day?" "Ready and terrified in equal measure," Denise admitted with a smile. "I barely slept all weekend. Amber and I went shopping for professional clothes, and she kept crying every time I tried something on. Happy tears, but still. It was exhausting and wonderful all at once." "How did she react when you told her about the job?" Denise's whole face brightened. "She screamed. Literally screamed with joy. Then she made me tell her the whole story 3 times. She says she wants to meet the man who was smart enough to hire her sister. I think she's planning to interrogate you about your intentions." Richard laughed. "I look forward to it. Your sister sounds amazing." "She is. She's my whole heart." Denise looked around the executive floor, taking in the bustling activity of the start of the work week. "This is really happening, isn't it? This is my life now." "This is your life now," Richard confirmed. "Come on. Let me show you what we've set up for you." He led her to the office she had seen briefly on Friday, but now it was fully equipped. 3 large monitors sat on the desk, already displaying security dashboards and system analytics. A whiteboard covered one wall, ready for her strategic planning. A comfortable chair, ergonomic keyboard, and every tool she might need had been carefully arranged. "Richard," Denise breathed, stepping into the space. "This is incredible. Only the best for the person who saved my company. There's more. Your access credentials are active, you have clearance for all systems, and I've scheduled meetings this week with every department head so you can understand how they currently handle security and data. I want you to have complete autonomy to implement whatever changes you think are necessary." Denise set down her briefcase and turned to face him. "You're giving me a lot of trust. You've earned it. Besides, trust works both ways. You trusted me when you offered to help. Now I'm trusting you to transform our security infrastructure. Call it mutual faith. Before Denise could respond, Richard's assistant, Patricia, appeared in the doorway. She was a competent woman in her late 50s who had been with the company since the beginning. Her expression was carefully professional, but Richard caught the curiosity in her eyes. "Mr. Patterson, the staff meeting is in 10 minutes. Should I let everyone know Ms. Williams will be joining you?" "Absolutely. Patricia, please make sure everyone understands that Denise has my complete confidence and authority. Any questions or concerns about changes she implements should be directed to me personally." "Of course." Patricia turned to Denise with a genuine smile. "Welcome to the executive team, Ms. Williams. If you need anything, please don't hesitate to ask. I run this floor so I can help you navigate the politics and personalities." "Thank you, Patricia. I have a feeling I'm going to need that guidance." After Patricia left, Denise looked at Richard with raised eyebrows. "Staff meeting? You're really throwing me in the deep end, aren't you? No time like the present. Besides, people are going to have questions about the sudden appearance of a new CTO. Better to address everything directly and transparently. Are you comfortable with that?" "Comfortable? No. Willing? Yes." Denise straightened her shoulders. "Let's do this." The conference room was packed when they arrived. Richard saw his entire management team along with key technical staff, probably 50 people total. The room fell silent when he and Denise entered, all eyes tracking their movement to the front. Richard could feel the speculation, the curiosity, the whispers that had probably been circulating since Friday's dramatic investor meeting. "Good morning, everyone," Richard began, standing at the head of the table with Denise beside him. "Thank you for coming on short notice. I know the past few days have been turbulent and uncertain. I want to address that head-on and introduce you to the person who made our survival possible." He gestured to Denise. "This is Denise Williams, Patterson Solutions' new Chief Technology Officer. Some of you may recognize her. Until Friday, she worked night shift as a member of our cleaning crew. What you didn't know is that Denise has a master's degree from MIT in computer science and cybersecurity. When our entire IT department couldn't solve Friday's crisis, Denise identified the problem, traced it to deliberate sabotage by Frank Morrison, and restored our systems to full functionality. She literally saved this company." The room erupted in murmurs. Richard saw shock, disbelief, and in some faces, embarrassment as people realized they had overlooked someone extraordinary. He held up his hand for silence. "I know this is unconventional. I know some of you are skeptical. But I'm asking you to set aside any preconceptions and judge Denise by her work, not her previous position. She has my complete confidence and authority to implement whatever security changes she deems necessary. I expect everyone to give her the same respect and cooperation you give me. Are there any questions?" A middle-aged man from the IT department raised his hand. Richard recognized him as Greg Thompson, one of the senior developers. "No disrespect, but how do we know she actually fixed the system? For all we know, the problem could have resolved itself or Morrison could have had an attack of conscience. Promoting someone from the cleaning staff to CTO seems like a huge risk." Richard felt anger flash through him, but before he could respond, Denise stepped forward. Her voice was calm and clear, carrying easily through the room. "That's a fair question, Greg. You want proof of competence. I understand that." She pulled out her phone and connected it to the conference room display. Within seconds, the screen showed lines of code. "This is the logic bomb Morrison planted in our update on Thursday. See these markers? That's his signature code style. I traced it through 17 layers of obfuscation to find the source. The bomb was designed to corrupt not just our main database but all backup systems, making recovery theoretically impossible." She swiped to another screen. "This is how I neutralized it. I created a counterprogram that identified every instance of Morrison's malicious code and replaced it with clean versions while simultaneously restoring from protected backups he didn't know existed. The whole process took 6 hours. If the problem had resolved itself, we would still be locked out of our systems right now." Greg leaned forward, studying the code. Richard saw his skepticism transform into grudging respect. "That's sophisticated work. Really sophisticated. How did you learn Morrison's code signature well enough to trace it?" "I've been watching our systems for 2 years while cleaning offices. When you're invisible, people talk freely around you. I heard countless technical discussions, saw problems being solved, learned how different developers approach challenges. I might have been emptying trash bins, but I was also getting a graduate-level education in how this company operates. Morrison always favored nested loops and recursive functions. Once I knew what to look for, finding his code was just a matter of time and patience. The room had gone completely quiet. Richard watched as understanding spread through the staff. This woman was the real deal. Her unconventional path to the position didn't diminish her qualifications, it enhanced them. She had earned her knowledge the hard way, through observation, sacrifice, and determination. I want to be clear about something, Denise continued, her eyes scanning the room. I'm not here to prove I belong. I know I belong. I've earned my place through skill, dedication, and results. What I am here for is to make this company better, safer, and more successful. I welcome your ideas, your concerns, and your collaboration. But I won't accept doubt based on where I came from rather than what I can do. Judge me by my work. That's all I ask. A woman from the finance department started clapping. Within seconds, the applause spread through the room until nearly everyone was acknowledging Denise's words. Richard saw the shift happening in real time, resistance transforming into acceptance and even excitement. Greg Thompson was nodding thoughtfully, clearly reassessing his initial reaction. Thank you, Denise, Richard said when the applause died down. Now let's talk about next steps. Denise will be meeting with each department this week to assess current security protocols and identify areas for improvement. I expect full cooperation. This isn't about blame or criticism. It's about building something stronger together. Any other questions? A younger developer raised her hand tentatively. Ms. Williams, will you be hiring additional security staff? Because if you're looking for people, I'd be interested in transferring to your team. Denise smiled warmly. I'll definitely be expanding the security department, and I'd love to talk with anyone interested in joining. What's your name? Rachel Chin. I've been with Patterson Solutions for 3 years, working on database management. Excellent. Let's schedule a meeting this week, Rachel. I want to hear your thoughts on our current vulnerabilities and where you think we can improve. Several other hands went up, people volunteering their expertise or asking about joining Denise's team. Richard watched with satisfaction. This was exactly the response he had hoped for. Denise wasn't just being accepted, she was being embraced. Her competence and confidence had won over even the skeptics. The meeting concluded with concrete plans for the week ahead. As people filed out, many stopped to introduce themselves to Denise or offer their support. Rachel Chin chatted animatedly about security protocols. Greg Thompson apologized for his initial skepticism and offered to walk Denise through the current system architecture. The energy in the room had completely shifted. When they were finally alone again, Richard turned to Denise. You were amazing. The way you handled Greg's challenge, the way you connected with the team, that was masterful. I was sweating bullets the whole time, Denise admitted. But I remembered what you said about authenticity and competence. I just tried to be honest about who I am and what I can do. It worked. You've won them over. Now the real work begins. I'm ready. Denise gathered her things, her expression determined. When's my first department meeting? In an hour. Operations. They're eager to talk about data protection protocols. Perfect. That gives me time to review their current systems and prepare questions. She headed toward her office, then paused and looked back. Richard? Thank you. For standing beside me in there. For backing me up when people doubted. It means everything. That's what partners do, Richard said. We support each other. Always. Something passed between them in that moment, a connection that went deeper than professional respect. Richard felt it in his chest, warm and insistent. He saw it reflected in Denise's eyes, a softness that had nothing to do with business and everything to do with two people recognizing something special growing between them. But they were at work, surrounded by colleagues, and both of them knew better than to blur professional boundaries so early. Denise gave him a small, understanding smile and continued to her office. Richard watched her go, feeling a mix of pride and something warmer, something that made him think about the future in ways he had not imagined possible just days ago. The week unfolded with purpose and progress. Denise threw herself into her new role with the intensity of someone who had waited years for this opportunity. Richard watched her transform the company's security infrastructure, implementing protocols that were both sophisticated and user-friendly. She worked long hours but never seemed drained. Instead, she glowed with the satisfaction of meaningful work. They fell into a comfortable rhythm of collaboration. Morning meetings to discuss strategy, afternoons of individual work, evenings occasionally spent together reviewing progress over dinner. It was professional, appropriate, but Richard couldn't ignore the way his heart lifted every time Denise walked into a room. The way her laugh made everything seem lighter. The way her insights challenged and inspired him. By Friday, the company felt revitalized. Client confidence was restored. The staff genuinely respected their new CTO. Financial projections showed strong recovery. Richard stood in his office that evening, looking out at the city lights, feeling more content than he had in years. A knock on his door made him turn. Denise stood in the doorway, still in her professional attire, a tablet under her arm. "Got a minute?" she asked. "I want to show you the final security implementation plan before I send it to the department heads." "Of course. Come in." They spent the next hour going through her proposal, Richard asking questions and Denise explaining her reasoning. Her plan was brilliant, comprehensive, and achievable. It would position Patterson Solutions as an industry leader in security, all while remaining cost-effective and scalable. "This is exceptional work, Denise. I'm consistently amazed by your vision. It feels good to finally use my education for what it was meant for," she said, saving the document. "This week has been exhausting and exhilarating and perfect. I keep waiting to wake up and find out it was all a dream." "It's real. You're real. This partnership we're building, it's all real." Denise looked at him, and Richard saw something shift in her expression. The professional mask slipped slightly, revealing vulnerability and something warmer beneath. "Partnership. Is that what this is?" Richard's pulse quickened. He knew he should be careful, should maintain professional distance, should not rush into anything that could complicate their working relationship. But he also knew that denying what he felt would be dishonest, and Denise deserved honesty above all else. "It started as partnership," he said carefully. "But I think it's becoming something more. At least, I hope it is." Denise set down her tablet, giving him her full attention. "Richard, I need to be careful here. This job, this opportunity, it means everything to me and Amber. I can't risk it by blurring professional and personal lines. But I also can't ignore that every time I see you, I feel something I haven't felt in a very long time. Possibility. Connection. Something real." "I feel it too," Richard admitted. "And you're right to be cautious. The last thing I want is to jeopardize what we're building professionally. So here's what I propose. We take this slow. Very slow. We focus on work, on building the company, on establishing your position beyond any doubt. And in our spare moments, when it's just us and there's no pressure, we get to know each other as people, not just colleagues. We let whatever this is grow naturally without forcing it or rushing it. How does that sound?" Denise considered, then smiled. "That sounds wise. And kind. And like something worth pursuing. So yes, let's do that. Slowly, carefully, but honestly." They stood there in the quiet office, the city glittering outside, two people at the beginning of something that could be extraordinary if they were patient enough to let it develop. Richard felt hope blooming in his chest, different from the desperate hope of survival he had felt the previous week. This was the hope of new beginnings, of connection, of building something beautiful brick by careful brick. "Want to get dinner?" he asked. "Not a date. Just two colleagues who happen to enjoy each other's company discussing the week's successes over good food." "That sounds perfect," Denise said, gathering her things. "But I'm buying. You've done enough for me. Let me return the favor." "Partners share expenses," Richard countered. "How about we split it?" "Deal. Though fair warning, if we keep spending this much time together, people are going to talk." "Let them talk. We know the truth. We're building something important here, and if it happens to include friendship alongside business, that's nobody's concern but ours." They left the office together, side by side, two people who had found each other in the most unexpected way. The future stretched out before them, full of possibility and promise. And for the first time in a long time, both of them were excited to see what came next. 3 weeks passed in a blur of productivity and quiet joy. Denise's security protocols had been implemented across all departments with remarkable success. Client retention was at an all-time high, new contracts were being signed, and industry publications were starting to notice Patterson Solutions' transformation. But what made Richard smile most was watching Denise flourish. She had moved through the initial awkwardness of her new position with grace, winning over even the most resistant staff members through competence and genuine kindness. Her team adored her. She had hired Rachel Chen as her deputy, along with 3 other talented developers who shared her vision for proactive security. The security department had become the heart of the company, driving innovation and setting standards that other firms tried to emulate. Richard and Denise had settled into a pattern of working closely during the day and occasionally sharing meals in the evening. Nothing romantic, just friendship deepening naturally through shared experiences and genuine understanding. They talked about everything: Childhood dreams, professional failures, books they loved, fears they carried. Richard learned about the terror Denise had felt when her parents died, the weight of suddenly being responsible for a teenage sister. Denise learned about Richard's lonely childhood, the pressure of being a prodigy, the hollow feeling of success without connection. On a crisp November evening, Richard knocked on Denise's office door. She looked up from her computer, pushing her glasses up her nose. She had started wearing reading glasses during long coding sessions, and Richard found them endearing. "Hey," she said, saving her work. "What's up? I was wondering if you'd like to grab dinner. There's a great Vietnamese place a few blocks away that I think you'd love." "Sounds perfect. Just let me finish this security audit and I'll be ready in 10 minutes. Richard settled into the chair across from her desk, content to wait. He watched her work, admiring the focused way she approached problems. Her fingers flew across the keyboard with practiced ease, her eyes scanning lines of code faster than he could follow. "Can I ask you something?" Denise said without looking up from the screen. "Of course. Do you ever miss it? The early days when you were building this company from nothing? When it was just you and a dream and everything felt possible?" Richard considered the question carefully. "Sometimes. There was a purity to it back then, a clarity of purpose. But I don't think I'd want to go back. What we're building now feels more meaningful because it's not just my vision anymore. It's a collaboration, a team effort. Having you here, watching you shape the company's future, that's more satisfying than anything I did alone." Denise finally looked at him, her expression soft. "That's a good answer. I was worried you might resent sharing control after being the sole decision-maker for so long." "Resent it? Denise, having you here is the best thing that's happened to this company. And to me personally, if I'm being honest." She smiled, that brilliant smile that never failed to make his heart skip. "I'm glad. Because I can't imagine being anywhere else. This place, this work, it all feels right in a way nothing else ever has." Before Richard could respond, Denise's phone rang. She glanced at the screen and her whole face lit up. "It's Amber. Do you mind if I take this?" "Not at all." Denise answered with obvious delight. "Hey baby girl. How was your exam?" She listened, her smile growing wider. "That's fantastic. I knew you'd crush it. Hold on, I'm putting you on speaker. There's someone here I want you to meet properly." She switched to speaker mode, and a young woman's enthusiastic voice filled the office. "Denise, are you still at work? It's almost 7. I know. I'm about to leave. But Amber, Richard Patterson is here. Remember I told you about him? The man who hired me. Oh my gosh. Mr. Patterson, hi. I've been dying to meet you. Denise won't stop talking about you." Denise's cheeks colored slightly, but she laughed. "Amber, you're embarrassing me. Someone has to keep you honest, sis. Mr. Patterson, I just want to say thank you for giving Denise this opportunity. You've changed both our lives. I can actually focus on my studies now instead of worrying about money constantly. That's because of you." Richard felt warmth spread through his chest. "Please call me Richard. And you don't need to thank me. Denise earned this position through her own merit. I just had the good sense to recognize it." "Well, your good sense is deeply appreciated," Amber replied. "Denise, I'm calling because I'm going to be in town this weekend. Can I come visit your fancy new office? I want to see where my sister became a total powerhouse executive." "Of course. Come by Saturday morning. I'll give you the full tour." "Perfect. And maybe Mr. Patterson can join us? I have questions about his intentions regarding my sister." "Amber." Denise sounded mortified, but Richard could hear the affection beneath the embarrassment. Richard laughed. "I'd be happy to answer any questions. Though I should warn you, I'm terrible at interrogations." "We'll see about that," Amber said cheerfully. "Okay, I need to run. Love you, Denise. See you Saturday, Richard." The call ended and Denise covered her face with her hands. "I'm so sorry about that. Amber has absolutely no filter." "Don't apologize. She sounds wonderful. I'm looking forward to meeting her properly." Denise lowered her hands, her expression somewhere between amused and nervous. "Just so you're prepared, she's going to ask incredibly nosy questions about whether we're dating. I've told her we're just colleagues and friends, but she's convinced there's more to it." "Is there?" Richard asked gently. The question hung in the air between them. Denise held his gaze and Richard saw 100 emotions flicker across her face. Hope, fear, longing, caution. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft but certain. "I think there might be. Eventually. If we let it happen naturally, without rushing or forcing anything. I like you, Richard. More than I probably should at this stage. But I also value what we have right now. This friendship, this partnership, this mutual respect. I don't want to risk losing that by moving too fast. I completely agree, Richard said, relief flooding through him that she shared his feelings. We have time. There's no rush. Let's just keep doing what we're doing, working together, sharing meals, getting to know each other. If something more develops, wonderful. If not, we still have this friendship, which is valuable on its own. Exactly. Denise stood, grabbing her coat. Now let's get that Vietnamese food before I starve. And you can tell me more about what you were like as a kid. I'm trying to reconcile the successful CEO with the awkward prodigy you claim to have been. They walked to the restaurant through the cooling evening air, their conversation flowing easily from topic to topic. Richard told embarrassing stories from his childhood. The science fair project that exploded, the time he tried to build a robot that ended up just making terrible noises, his complete inability to talk to girls until college. Denise shared her own stories, teaching herself to code using library computers, staying up all night to finish her MIT application essays, the terror and pride of giving her valedictorian speech at her sister's high school graduation. The restaurant was small and cozy, filled with the aroma of lemongrass and fresh herbs. They ordered spring rolls and pho, continuing to talk while they ate. Richard found himself telling Denise things he had never shared with anyone. His fear that success was all he had, that without the company he was nothing, that he had built an empire but forgotten to build a life. That's not true, Denise said firmly, setting down her chopsticks. You're so much more than your company, Richard. You're curious and kind. You're someone who recognizes worth in unexpected places. You're willing to take risks on people others overlook. Those qualities exist independent of Patterson Solutions. They're part of who you are. You see me differently than most people do. Maybe I see you more clearly than most people do. Success can be a mask hiding the person underneath. But I've seen you without that mask, remember? I saw you on the floor of your office, broken and vulnerable. That person, the one who kept fighting even when it seemed hopeless, that's who you really are. Richard reached across the table and took her hand gently. And you're someone who sacrificed her own dreams to take care of family. Someone who stayed kind and hopeful despite years of being invisible. Someone who helped a stranger because it was right, not because you expected anything in return. That's who you are, Denise. That's what makes you extraordinary. They sat like that for a long moment, hands clasped across the table, looking at each other with growing understanding and affection. It wasn't a romantic gesture yet, just two people acknowledging the connection deepening between them. When Denise finally pulled her hand back, she was smiling softly. We should probably eat before the food gets cold, she said. Probably, Richard agreed, though he wanted nothing more than to keep holding her hand. They finished their meal talking about lighter topics, but something had shifted. The acknowledgement of feelings had changed the air between them, made everything feel more charged and precious. When they left the restaurant, Richard walked Denise to her car, an older sedan that had clearly seen better days but was meticulously maintained. Thank you for dinner, she said, unlocking the door. And for the conversation. I needed that. Sometimes I feel like I'm moving so fast I don't have time to process everything that's happened. Anytime you need to talk, I'm here. That's what friends do. Friends? Denise repeated, testing the word. Yes. Very good friends who maybe, possibly, could become something more if the timing is right and the planets align and we both remain incredibly patient. Richard laughed. That's a very scientific way to describe potential romance. What can I say? I'm a practical person. She hesitated, then stepped closer and hugged him quickly. It was brief but warm, and when she pulled back, her cheeks were slightly flushed. Drive safe. See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow, Richard echoed, watching as she got in her car and drove away. He walked to his own vehicle, feeling like he was floating. Everything about this felt right. The slow pace, the honest communication, the mutual respect that formed the foundation of whatever was growing between them. For someone who had rushed into the business world at full speed, this patient approach to personal connection was new and wonderful. Over the next few days, Richard found himself thinking about Denise constantly. The way she hummed while working on complex problems. The way she always remembered everyone's names and asked about their families. The way her eyes crinkled when she laughed. Small details that added up to someone remarkable, someone he wanted to know better and be close to. Saturday arrived with clear skies and mild temperatures. Richard showed up at the office around 10 in the morning, finding Denise already there reviewing reports. She looked up when he entered, surprise and pleasure crossing her face. You came. I wasn't sure if you were serious about meeting Amber. Of course I was serious. I'm looking forward to it. Fair warning, she's basically a human tornado. Very enthusiastic, very direct, and completely shameless about asking personal questions. I'm prepared. The elevator dinged 20 minutes later, and a young woman burst into the executive floor like a force of nature. Amber Williams was striking, with the same warm brown skin as her sister but a more petite frame. She wore bright red jeans and a yellow sweater, her natural hair styled in impressive locks decorated with colorful beads. Her energy was infectious, her smile wide and genuine. "Denise!" she shrieked, running to embrace her sister. They hugged tightly, both of them laughing. When they separated, Amber turned her full attention to Richard, her eyes bright with curiosity. "So you're the famous Richard Patterson. I was starting to think Denise made you up." Richard extended his hand. "It's wonderful to meet you, Amber. Denise talks about you all the time. All good things, I hope." Amber shook his hand enthusiastically, then immediately started peppering him with questions. "How long have you known my sister? What made you decide to hire her? Do you have any siblings? What's your favorite food? Are you single?" "Amber." Denise looked mortified. "You can't just ask people if they're single." "Why not? It's a simple yes or no question." Amber turned back to Richard, completely unrepentant. "Well?" Richard found himself charmed by her directness. "I'm single, yes. I've known your sister for just over a month, though it feels much longer. I hired her because she's the most talented person I've met in years. I'm an only child. My favorite food is probably Thai curry. And before you ask, yes, I like your sister very much. As a colleague, a friend, and potentially something more if we both decide that's what we want." Amber's eyes widened with delight. "Oh, I like him. Denise, you should definitely keep this one." "We're taking things very slowly," Denise said, but she was trying not to smile. "Now, do you want the office tour or not?" For the next hour they walked through the building, Denise showing Amber her office, the security operations center, the staff break room. Amber asked intelligent questions about the technology and enthusiastic questions about office dynamics. Richard watched the sisters interact, seeing the deep love and easy affection between them. They teased each other constantly but with obvious warmth. "This is amazing, Denise," Amber said as they stood in Denise's office overlooking the city. "You've come so far. Mama and Daddy would be so proud." Denise's eyes glistened with tears. "I hope so. Everything I do for us. For the family they built. They know. I'm sure they know." Amber hugged her sister, then pulled back with renewed energy. "Okay, tour complete. Now who wants lunch? My treat, and I insist Richard joins us." They went to a casual cafe nearby, settling into a booth with sandwiches and coffee. Amber dominated the conversation, telling animated stories about her classes and roommates, making both Denise and Richard laugh with her impressions and observations. Richard found himself relaxing completely, enjoying the easy warmth of their company. "So, Richard," Amber said around a bite of her sandwich, "serious question. What are your intentions toward my sister?" "Amber." Denise protested again. "What? It's a valid question. You're my only sister. I need to make sure anyone interested in you has honorable intentions." Richard appreciated her protectiveness. "My intentions are to be the best friend and colleague to Denise that I can be. To support her career, value her expertise, and if she's willing, gradually explore whether there might be something more between us. I promise I will always treat her with respect and kindness. She deserves nothing less." Amber studied him carefully, then nodded with satisfaction. "Good answer. You pass. For now. But I'm watching you, Mr. Patterson. Hurt my sister and you'll answer to me." "I wouldn't dream of hurting her," Richard said seriously. "She's one of the best people I've ever met." Denise was blushing furiously but smiling. "Can we please talk about something else? How's your organic chemistry class, Amber?" They shifted to safer topics, but Richard noticed Amber watching him throughout lunch, clearly evaluating his character and intentions. He didn't mind. It spoke well of both sisters that they looked out for each other so fiercely. By the end of the meal, Amber seemed satisfied with what she had observed. "Okay," she announced as they finished eating. "Official verdict, I approve. You two are adorable together, and Richard, you make my sister smile in a way I haven't seen in years. Just don't rush things and don't let work completely consume your relationship. Deal?" "Deal," Richard agreed, amused and touched by her earnestness. As they walked back to the building, Amber fell back slightly, letting Richard and Denise walk ahead. Richard felt Denise's hand brush against his, and without thinking, he caught it gently. She looked at him in surprise, then smiled and squeezed his fingers. "Your sister is wonderful," Richard said quietly. "She likes you." That's huge. Amber's usually suspicious of anyone who shows interest in me. Well, her suspicion is well-founded. You're worth protecting. And you're worth knowing better. Denise squeezed his hand again, then let go as they reached Amber, maintaining appropriate boundaries. Thank you for today. For meeting her, for being patient with her questions, for being you. Thank you for trusting me enough to introduce me to the most important person in your life. Amber hugged them both goodbye, extracting promises from Denise to visit more often and from Richard to take good care of her sister. As they watched her drive away, Richard and Denise stood side by side in comfortable silence. So, Denise said eventually, she interrogated you pretty thoroughly. I expected nothing less. She's protecting you. I respect that. Did you mean what you said? About exploring whether there might be something more between us. Richard turned to face her fully. Every word. I like you, Denise. More each day. But I meant the other part too. There's no rush. We have time to figure this out together. Denise nodded, her expression thoughtful and hopeful. Time. Yes, that sounds good. And in the meantime, we keep doing what we're doing, being partners, being friends, being honest with each other about how we feel. Sounds perfect to me. They returned to the office together, the air between them charged with new possibility. Something was growing, slowly and beautifully, built on a foundation of mutual respect and genuine affection. And for two people who had spent years feeling overlooked and lonely, that slow, steady growth felt like the most precious thing in the world. The future was unfolding one careful step at a time, and both of them were content to let it happen naturally. Because some things, the best things, were worth the wait. The following week brought a major celebration. Patterson Solutions had just signed its largest contract ever, a multi-million-dollar deal with a Fortune 500 company to overhaul their entire security infrastructure. It was a massive validation of Denise's work, proof that the transformation she had led was positioning the company as an industry leader. Richard decided to throw a party for the entire staff, a rare event in the usually serious offices of Patterson Solutions. He rented out the conference room, hired caterers, and made sure everyone understood this was a celebration of collective success. As the party got underway on Friday evening, Richard stood near the buffet table watching his employees relax and enjoy themselves. The atmosphere was joyous, with clusters of people laughing, music playing softly, and genuine camaraderie filling the space. He spotted Denise across the room, surrounded by her security team, all of them toasting her leadership. She looked radiant in a green dress that brought out the richness of her skin tone, her hair loose and natural around her shoulders. Patricia appeared at his elbow, holding a glass of wine. You should go talk to her instead of staring like a lovesick teenager, she said dryly. Richard startled. I wasn't staring. You absolutely were. Everyone can see how you feel about her, Richard. The question is, what are you going to do about it? We're taking things slowly. Building a foundation of friendship first. Patricia smiled knowingly. That's wise. But don't take so long that you miss your opportunity. Life is short and genuine connection is rare. Don't overthink it. Before Richard could respond, Denise caught his eye from across the room and waved him over. He excused himself from Patricia and made his way through the crowd. There you are, Denise said warmly. My team wants to thank you personally for believing in our vision. Rachel Chin stepped forward first. Mr. Patterson, this contract is going to transform our department. We'll be able to implement technologies we've only dreamed about. Thank you for supporting Ms. Williams' proposals. Call me Richard, please. And you should thank Denise, not me. She's the visionary. I just had the sense to step back and let her work. Greg Thompson, who had been skeptical during Denise's first staff meeting, nodded in agreement. I'll admit I had my doubts at first. But Denise has proven herself 10 times over. She's the best CTO this company could ask for. Hear, hear, someone called out, and the security team raised their glasses in a toast. Denise's cheeks colored with the praise, but she smiled graciously. Thank you all. But this success belongs to the entire team. Every person here contributed to making Patterson Solutions a company clients can trust absolutely. We did this together. As the celebration continued, Richard found himself constantly aware of Denise's presence. The way she moved through the room, making sure everyone felt included and valued. The way she laughed at people's jokes, genuine and unforced. The way she caught his eye occasionally, sharing silent moments of connection across the crowded space. Eventually, they found themselves standing together on the small balcony attached to the conference room, looking out at the city lights. The sounds of the party filtered through the glass doors behind them, but out here it was quieter, more intimate. This is surreal, Denise said, leaning against the railing. 2 months ago I was cleaning these offices. Now I'm running the security department and celebrating the biggest contract in company history. Sometimes I still can't believe it's real. It's real. You've earned every bit of this, Denise. I know. But earning it and believing I deserve it are sometimes two different things. There's still a part of me that feels like the imposter, waiting for someone to realize I don't belong here. Richard moved closer, his shoulder nearly touching hers. You belong here more than anyone. You saved this company. You transformed it. You've built a team that respects and follows you. What more proof do you need? Denise turned to look at him, her expression vulnerable. I guess I need to stop waiting for the other shoe to drop. To accept that good things can happen and last. Good things can happen and last, Richard said softly. I'm proof of that. Meeting you, working with you, getting to know you, these are the best things that have happened to me in years. And they're lasting. They're real. Whatever we're building together, it has a foundation strong enough to support whatever comes next. What do you think comes next? Denise asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Richard considered the question carefully. I think we keep doing what we're doing. Working together, supporting each other, being honest about our feelings. And maybe, when the time feels right, we stop pretending this is just friendship and acknowledge it for what it's becoming. Which is something precious, something worth protecting and nurturing. Something that could be love if we let it grow. Denise drew in a sharp breath, her eyes searching his face. You really mean that? I do. I'm falling for you, Denise. Not because you saved my company, though I'm grateful for that. Not because you're brilliant, though you are. But because of who you are, kind, strong, humble, determined. Because you make me laugh. Because you challenge me to be better. Because when I'm with you, everything feels right in a way it never has before. Tears glimmered in Denise's eyes, but she was smiling. I'm falling for you too. I've been trying to be practical and cautious. But it's not working. Every day I find another reason to care about you. The way you treat your employees with respect. The way you listen when people talk. The way you made Amber feel welcome without hesitation. The way you look at me like I'm someone special. You are special. Extraordinary, actually. They stood there on the balcony, the city spreading out below them, the party continuing behind them. It felt like a moment suspended in time, full of possibility and promise. Richard wanted to kiss her, wanted to pull her close and express physically what words could only approximate. But they were at a work event, surrounded by colleagues, and both of them valued discretion. Instead, he took her hand gently, lacing his fingers through hers. I don't want to rush you. But I also don't want to waste time pretending I don't feel this way. So here's what I'm thinking. Let's be honest that this is more than friendship now. We don't have to announce it to the world or change how we behave at work. But between us, privately, let's acknowledge that we're exploring something romantic. We're dating, slowly and carefully, but dating nonetheless. What do you think? Denise squeezed his hand, her smile widening. I think that sounds perfect. I think I've been waiting to hear you say that. And I think yes, absolutely yes, let's do this. Slowly, carefully, but together. Richard felt joy burst through his chest. Yeah. They stood there holding hands, grinning at each other like teenagers, until the sound of someone clearing their throat made them both turn. Patricia stood in the doorway, her expression amused. Sorry to interrupt, but people are asking for both of you. Something about speeches and toasts. Of course, Richard said, reluctantly releasing Denise's hand. We'll be right there. Patricia gave them a knowing smile and disappeared back inside. Denise straightened her dress, composing herself. Ready to face the crowd? Richard asked. With you? Always. They returned to the party together, and Richard made a brief speech thanking everyone for their hard work and dedication. Then Denise spoke, her words gracious and inspiring, talking about teamwork and shared vision. As Richard watched her command the room with natural authority, he felt certain he was witnessing someone destined for greatness. And he felt privileged to be part of her journey. The party wound down around 10, with employees gradually heading home. Richard and Denise stayed to help clean up, working side by side to restore order to the conference room. When the last person left and they were finally alone, Denise turned to Richard with a mischievous smile. So, we're officially dating now? Officially. As official as two very private people can be. Good. Because I really want to do this. She stepped closer and kissed him, soft and brief but full of meaning. When she pulled back, she looked simultaneously nervous and delighted. Was that okay? Richard's heart was racing. That was more than okay. That was perfect. Can we do it again? Denise laughed and obliged, this time lingering a bit longer. The kiss was tender and sweet, a promise of more to come. When they finally separated, both of them were smiling widely. "We should probably go home before we get carried away," Denise said, though she made no move to step back. "Probably," Richard agreed, equally reluctant to end the moment. "But first, can I take you on an actual date? Dinner tomorrow night, just the two of us? Somewhere nice where we can talk and enjoy each other's company without work getting in the way." "I'd love that. Pick me up at 7? 7 it is." They left the building together and Richard walked Denise to her car. They kissed again before she got in, longer this time, both of them savoring the newness and excitement. When Denise finally drove away, Richard stood in the parking garage feeling like the luckiest man alive. The next evening, Richard arrived at Denise's apartment building precisely at 7, holding a bouquet of sunflowers. He had called Amber for advice, and she had told him Denise loved sunflowers because they reminded her of their mother's garden. The small details showed how much he cared, how much attention he paid. Denise answered the door looking stunning in a burgundy dress that hugged her curves, her hair styled in elegant curls. Her eyes lit up when she saw the flowers. "Sunflowers? Richard, these are perfect. How did you know?" "A little bird told me." "Are you ready?" "Almost. Come in for a minute. I want you to meet someone." Richard stepped into the modest apartment, neat and cheerful with mismatched furniture that somehow worked together. In the living room, Amber sat on the couch doing homework, and when she saw Richard, she jumped up with a grin. "Richard, you're really doing the proper date thing. I'm impressed." "Your sister deserves proper dates," Richard replied. "Actually, she deserves everything good in the world." "Okay, you're definitely passing the test," Amber said. "Denise, keep him. I mean it." Denise laughed, putting the flowers in water. "We've been through this. You can't just command me to keep people like they're stray puppies." "Why not? It worked with your last rescue, Whiskers." "That's different. Whiskers is a cat." Richard watched them banter, delighted by their dynamic. This was family, real and unfiltered, and he felt honored to be welcomed into it even in this small way. "Okay, we're heading out," Denise announced, grabbing her purse. "Don't wait up." "Oh, I'm absolutely waiting up," Amber called as they left. "I want details." In the hallway, Denise shook her head fondly. "She's impossible. She's wonderful. Your whole relationship with her is wonderful. It's clear how much you love each other. She's my whole world. Everything I do is for her, to make sure she has opportunities one had to fight for. Seeing her thrive at school, pursuing her dreams, it makes every sacrifice worth it." Richard took her hand as they walked to his car. "You're an amazing sister and an amazing person. I hope you know that." "I'm starting to," Denise said softly. "You help me believe it." Dinner was perfect. Richard had chosen a cozy Italian restaurant with intimate lighting and excellent food. They talked for hours, conversation flowing easily from topic to topic. Richard shared stories about building his company, the failures and triumphs, the lessons learned. Denise talked about her time at MIT, the challenge of being one of few women of color in her program, the satisfaction of proving she belonged. "Did you ever doubt yourself?" Richard asked over dessert. "Every day," Denise admitted. "There were times I wanted to quit, to go back home and take an easier path. But then I'd think about my parents, about the dreams they had for me, and I'd find the strength to keep going. Proving them right, making them proud even though they're gone, that's been my driving force. They would be incredibly proud. Anyone can see that. I hope so. I like to think they're watching somehow, seeing that their daughters turned out okay despite everything." Richard reached across the table and took her hand. "More than okay. Exceptional." They lingered over coffee, neither wanting the evening to end. Eventually, though, the restaurant began closing and they had to leave. Richard drove Denise home, parking outside her building but making no move to rush her out of the car. "I had a wonderful time," Denise said. "Thank you for this. For treating us like something special." "It is special. You're special. I want to do this right, Denise. Take our time, build something real, make sure we have a foundation strong enough to last." "That's what I want too." She leaned across the console and kissed him, slow and sweet. "Same time next week?" "I was hoping for sooner, but I'll take what I can get." Denise laughed. "Okay, how about coffee on Wednesday?" "My treat." "Perfect." They kissed again before Denise got out of the car. Richard watched her walk to her building, waiting until she was safely inside before driving away. His heart felt full, his mind racing with happiness and hope. He was dating Denise Williams, the most remarkable woman he had ever met, and the future looked brighter than it ever had before. In her apartment, Denise leaned against the closed door, smiling. Amber appeared from the kitchen, eyes bright with curiosity. So, how was it? Perfect, Denise said. Amber, I think I'm falling in love with him. Good. Because that man is absolutely gone for you. I can see it in how he looks at you. Like you're the most precious thing in the world. Is that how he looks at me? That's exactly how he looks at you. And you look at him the same way. It's actually kind of disgustingly cute. Amber hugged her sister. I'm happy for you, Denise. After everything you've sacrificed for me, you deserve someone who sees how amazing you are. We're taking it slow. Being careful. That's smart. But don't be so careful you miss out on something beautiful. Sometimes you have to take risks even when they're scary. Denise thought about Richard's words on the balcony, about love growing if they let it. Maybe Amber was right. Maybe some risks were worth taking, especially when the potential reward was this profound. I'll try, she promised. Now, tell me about your day while I get ready for bed. I'll try, she promised. Now, tell me about your day while I get ready for bed. I want to hear everything. They settled on the couch together, and Amber launched into an animated story about her anatomy lab. Denise listened, grateful for this simple moment of sisterhood, for the life they had built together against all odds. And now, maybe, just maybe, she was building something else too. Something with Richard that felt equally precious and worth protecting. The next few weeks passed in a blur of work accomplishments and stolen romantic moments. Richard and Denise maintained careful professionalism at the office, but their lunch hours became sacred time together. They explored the city, finding quiet cafes and parks where they could talk without interruption. Their connection deepened with each conversation, each shared laugh, each moment of understanding. One Thursday afternoon, Richard was in his office reviewing quarterly reports when Patricia buzzed him. Richard, there's a Mr. Henderson from Tech Innovations online too. He says it's urgent. Richard picked up, recognizing the name of one of their competitors' CEOs. This is Richard Patterson. Mr. Patterson, James Henderson here. I'll get straight to the point. We've been watching your company's transformation with great interest, particularly the work of your new CTO. I'd like to make you an offer. Richard's guard went up immediately. What kind of offer? We want to acquire Patterson Solutions. We're prepared to pay $350 million, well above market value. You'd stay on as a consultant, and your staff would be absorbed into our organization with generous packages. It's a win for everyone. Everyone except our clients who trust our independence, Richard said coolly. We're not interested in selling. Before you dismiss this out of hand, there's another option. If you're not willing to sell the whole company, we'd like to make an offer specifically for Ms. Williams. We're prepared to offer her a position as our Chief Innovation Officer with a salary of $500,000 annually, full benefits and equity. We believe her talents are wasted in a mid-size firm. She deserves to be at a major player like Tech Innovations. Richard felt anger surge through him. Let me be very clear, Mr. Henderson. Denise Williams is not for sale. She's a partner in building this company, not a commodity to be traded. And Patterson Solutions is not interested in your acquisition offer now or ever. Is there anything else? You're making a mistake, Patterson. We could make both of you very wealthy. We're already building something valuable. It's called integrity. Goodbye, Mr. Henderson. Richard hung up, his hands shaking with anger. The audacity of trying to poach Denise, of treating her like a piece of property that could be bought. He needed to tell her about this immediately, to make sure she knew about the offer and could make her own choice, even though the thought of her leaving made his chest ache. He found her in the Security Operations Center, reviewing system logs with Rachel. When she saw his expression, she immediately excused herself and followed him to a private conference room. What's wrong? She asked, concern evident on her face. Richard explained the call, watching her expressions shift from surprise to annoyance to thoughtfulness. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. $500,000 is a lot of money, she said finally. That would change everything for me and Amber. Richard's heart sank even though he tried to keep his face neutral. It would. And if that's what you want, I won't stand in your way. Your career, your choices, they're yours to make. I would never try to hold you back from opportunities. Denise looked at him steadily. Is that what you think? That I'd leave for a bigger paycheck? I don't know. I hope not, but I'd understand if you did. It's a significant opportunity. Richard. She moved closer, taking both his hands. I'm not interested in their offer. Not even a little bit. Do you know why? Why? Because everything I value is here. The team I've built, the security infrastructure we're creating, the company culture we're shaping together. Money is important, yes, but it's not everything. I left a potentially lucrative career to clean offices because family mattered more. I'm not going to abandon what we're building here for a higher salary and a fancy title at some soulless corporation. Relief flooded through Richard. You're sure? Completely sure. Besides, she smiled, I have another reason to stay. A very important reason who happens to be standing right in front of me. Richard pulled her into his arms, holding her close. I was terrified you'd say yes. The thought of losing you, professionally or personally, it made me realize just how much you mean to me. You're not losing me, Denise murmured against his chest. I'm right where I want to be. Right where I'm supposed to be. They stood there for a long moment, just holding each other. Finally, Denise pulled back slightly. That said, we should probably address the elephant in the room. If Tech Innovations is trying to poach me, other companies will too. My work has gotten attention. There will be more offers. What do you want to do about that? Denise bit her lip, thinking. I want to stay at Patterson Solutions. But I also want to make sure you know I'm choosing to be here, not just accepting what's offered because I'm grateful. Maybe it's time we renegotiate my compensation package to reflect market value. Not because I'm asking for it, but because it's fair and it sends a message to other companies that you value me appropriately. Done, Richard said immediately. I'll talk to HR today. You deserve to be paid what you're worth, which is honestly priceless, but we'll do our best with numbers. And Denise? I want you to always feel free to discuss opportunities with me. Not because I own you or control your career, but because we're partners. We make decisions together, honestly and openly. Partners? Denise agreed. I like the sound of that. In business and in life. They returned to work, but the incident had shifted something. The threat of losing each other had made them both realize how deeply invested they were, not just in the relationship but in building a future together. That evening, Richard called Denise and asked her to dinner, but not at a restaurant. He wanted to cook for her at his apartment, to share his space and create something more intimate. Denise arrived at 7:30, and Richard gave her a tour of his penthouse. It was modern and expensive but somehow sterile, decorated by professionals with no personal touches. Denise noticed immediately. It's beautiful, she said diplomatically, but it doesn't feel like you. That's because it's not really. I hired a designer and told them to make it look successful. I never thought about making it feel like home. What would home feel like? Richard considered. Warmer. More personal. Books everywhere. Pictures of people I care about. Proof that life happens here, not just work. Then maybe it's time to change that, Denise suggested gently. Make this space reflect who you actually are, not who you think you should be. They moved to the kitchen, where Richard had laid out ingredients for pasta carbonara. As they cooked together, the apartment did feel warmer, filled with laughter and easy conversation. Denise told him about Amber's latest misadventure in organic chemistry lab. Richard shared stories about his early days living in a studio apartment while building the company. I was so lonely then, he admitted, stirring the pasta. Successful by external measures but completely isolated. I told myself it was necessary, that I had to sacrifice relationships for achievement. Now I realize I was just scared. It's easier to hide behind work than risk being vulnerable with people. And now? Denise asked, chopping basil. Now I'm still scared, but I'm choosing vulnerability anyway. Because what we're building, this connection between us, it's worth the risk. You're worth the risk. Denise set down her knife and moved to stand beside him. I'm scared too. Terrified, actually. I haven't dated seriously since college. I've been so focused on Amber and survival that I forgot how to let someone in. But with you, it feels natural. It feels right. They ate dinner on the balcony overlooking the city, talking until the stars came out. When the temperature dropped, they moved inside to the couch, continuing their conversation. At some point, Denise leaned her head on Richard's shoulder, and he wrapped his arm around her. It felt perfectly natural, like they had done this 1,000 times before. Can I ask you something? Denise said quietly. Anything. Where do you see this going? Are we just enjoying the moment, or are you thinking long-term? Richard took a breath, knowing this was important. I'm thinking long-term. I know it's relatively early, but I can't imagine my future without you in it. Not just as my CTO, but as my partner in every sense. I'm falling in love with you, Denise. Actually, I think I'm already there. I just didn't want to say it too soon and scare you away. Denise lifted her head to look at him, tears shimmering in her eyes. You're not scaring me away. I love you too. I think I started falling the night you were sitting on your office floor and you said yes when I offered to help. That moment of trust, of vulnerability, it opened something in me. And every day since then I've fallen deeper. You love me? Richard whispered, hardly daring to believe it. I love you. Completely. Terrifyingly. Wonderfully. Richard cupped her face gently and kissed her, pouring every ounce of feeling into the gesture. This wasn't the tentative kissing of early dating. This was passion mixed with tenderness, promise mixed with present joy. When they finally broke apart, both of them were breathless. Stay tonight, Richard said. Not for anything physical, just stay. Let me fall asleep holding you and wake up knowing you're here. Let me prove this is real. Denise smiled, touching his face tenderly. Okay. Yes. I'll stay. They got ready for bed, Richard lending Denise a t-shirt to sleep in. When they finally settled under the covers, Denise curled into Richard's embrace with perfect trust. They talked quietly in the darkness, sharing dreams and fears, making plans and promises. Eventually, their words faded into comfortable silence, and they drifted off to sleep wrapped in each other's arms. It was the best sleep Richard had gotten in years. He woke early, watching the sunrise paint colors across the sky, feeling Denise's steady breathing against his chest. This was what he had been missing all those lonely years. Not just another person, but this specific person. This remarkable woman who had seen past his wealth to the man underneath, who had offered help when he needed it most, who had chosen him day after day, despite having every reason to protect her heart. Denise stirred, opening her eyes and smiling when she saw him watching her. Good morning. Good morning. Sleep well? Better than I have in years. Your bed is much more comfortable than mine. You're welcome here anytime. Every night if you want. Denise laughed softly. Let's not rush. We're doing this right, remember? Slow and steady. Slow and steady, Richard agreed, though privately he thought fast-tracking this wouldn't be the worst idea. Hungry? I make excellent pancakes. They spent the morning together, cooking breakfast and reading the newspaper like an old married couple. It felt natural and right, a glimpse of what their future could hold. When Denise finally left to go home and change for a weekend study session with Amber, Richard stood at his door watching her go, feeling like the luckiest man alive. His phone rang as soon as she left. It was Patricia, her voice tight with concern. Richard, we have a problem. Frank Morrison's lawyer just sent over paperwork. He's suing the company for wrongful termination and defamation. He's claiming you falsely accused him of sabotage and ruined his reputation. Richard felt his good mood evaporate. Send me the documents. I'll review them and get our legal team involved. This is going to be ugly, isn't it? Potentially. But we have truth on our side. Denise documented everything when she discovered his sabotage. We have proof. Then we'll fight this. I'm not letting him hurt this company or Denise's reputation. Thanks for the heads up, Patricia. He hung up and immediately called Denise. When she answered, he could hear Amber chattering in the background. Hey, what's up? Frank's suing us. Wrongful termination and defamation. I wanted you to know immediately. You'll probably be called to testify about the code you found and how you traced it to him. There was a pause, then Denise's voice came back, calm and determined. Okay. I have all my documentation. Every step I took, every piece of evidence I found. We'll fight this together, Richard. We're not letting him win. Together, Richard echoed, grateful for her strength. I love you. I love you too. See you Monday. We'll deal with this head on. As Richard ended the call and started reviewing the legal documents, he felt strangely calm. Yes, this was a challenge. Yes, it would be stressful and complicated. But he wasn't facing it alone anymore. He had Denise, brilliant and brave, standing beside him. And together they could handle anything. The future still looked bright, even with obstacles ahead. Because love, real love built on mutual respect and genuine partnership, could weather any storm. And what he and Denise had was exactly that kind of love. Stronger than any challenge. Brighter than any setback. Built to last. Monday morning arrived with the weight of the lawsuit hanging over Patterson Solutions. Richard had spent the weekend consulting with lawyers, reviewing documentation, and preparing for the legal battle ahead. But he had also spent time with Denise, their Sunday afternoon walk through the park providing much-needed perspective and peace. Now, sitting in his office with Denise and their legal team, Richard felt ready. If Frank Morrison wanted a fight, he would get one. But he would lose because truth and evidence were on their side. Martha Reynolds, their lead attorney, spread documents across the conference table. She was a sharp woman in her 50s with steel-gray hair and a reputation for winning difficult cases. Frank's claims are aggressive but ultimately baseless. He's alleging you terminated him without cause and publicly accused him of crimes he didn't commit. However, Ms. Williams' documentation is thorough and damning. Every step she took to trace the sabotage is logged, time-stamped, and technically sound. Can we countersue? Richard asked. Absolutely. For the actual damages his sabotage caused, which were substantial. Plus, filing a frivolous lawsuit could be considered an additional attempt to harm the company. Martha looked at Denise. Ms. Williams, you'll be our key witness. Your testimony and technical expertise will make or break this case. Are you comfortable with that? Completely comfortable, Denise said firmly. I documented everything specifically because I anticipated this might happen. Frank is smart enough to know covering his tracks would be difficult. I'm ready to explain exactly what he did and how I proved it. Good. We'll need to prep you extensively. Frank's lawyers will try to discredit you, probably focusing on your previous position as janitorial staff and questioning your qualifications. Be prepared for that. Denise's jaw tightened. Let them try. My credentials speak for themselves. Over the next 2 weeks, life became a balancing act between running the company, preparing for the lawsuit, and maintaining their relationship. Richard and Denise made a conscious effort to protect their personal time, carving out moments that were just for them, away from stress and obligations. One evening, Richard took Denise to a small jazz club, intimate and dimly lit with incredible music. They sat close together in a corner booth, her hand in his, just listening and being present. No talk of work, no discussion of lawsuits, just music and connection. Thank you for this, Denise said during a break between sets. I needed to remember there's more to life than legal battles and system updates. Me too. I was so focused on fighting that I forgot to live. You remind me to do both. Denise smiled, then grew serious. Richard, I need to tell you something. Amber got her acceptance letter today. She's been admitted to Johns Hopkins Medical School. Full scholarship, everything covered. Richard's face lit up. That's incredible. She must be over the moon. She is. She cried for an hour straight. Happy tears, but still it was intense. Denise's expression was joyful but tinged with something else. Sadness maybe, or worry. What's wrong? This is amazing news. It is. It's everything we've worked for. But Hopkins is in Baltimore. She'll be moving away. And I realized that for the first time in 6 years I'll be alone. No Amber to come home to. No one depending on me. I should be relieved, but I'm terrified. Richard squeezed her hand. You won't be alone. You have me. And a whole company of people who respect and care about you. Your life is expanding, Denise, not emptying. I know. Logically, I know that. But Amber has been my purpose for so long. Taking care of her, making sure she succeeds, that's been my driving force. What do I do when that's not my primary focus anymore? You live for yourself. You pursue your own dreams. You build a life that's about more than sacrifice and survival. Richard cupped her face gently. And maybe, if you're open to it, you build that life with someone who loves you. With me. Denise's eyes filled with tears. You want to build a life with me? I want to build everything with you. A home, a future, a partnership that goes beyond work. I know it's fast. I know we've only been together a few months. But when you know, you know. And I know I want to spend my life making you as happy as you make me. Richard, Denise whispered, are you saying what I think you're saying? Not yet. Not officially. Ask me again in 6 months when the lawsuit is settled and Amber is settled at Hopkins. But yes, I'm thinking about forever. About marriage and building a real home together. About supporting your career while you support mine. About being partners in every sense. Is that what you want too? Yes, Denise said without hesitation. Yes, that's exactly what I want. A future with you. Everything with you. They kissed there in the jazz club, sealing a promise that felt as binding as any legal contract. Around them, music swelled and life continued, but in their small corner of the world, everything had just shifted into perfect alignment. The lawsuit proceedings began in earnest the following month. Frank's lawyers were aggressive, just as Martha had predicted, but they were also sloppy. Their technical arguments didn't hold up under scrutiny, and their attempts to discredit Denise only made her look more credible by comparison. When Denise took the stand, she was magnificent. Dressed in a navy suit, her voice clear and steady, she walked the court through every technical detail of how she had discovered and traced Frank's sabotage. She explained complex code in terms the judge could understand, presented her documentation with organized precision, and never once lost her composure, even when Frank's lawyer tried to rattle her. Ms. Williams, the opposing lawyer said with barely concealed condescension. Isn't it true that you have no formal employment history in cybersecurity? That your only job before becoming CTO was cleaning offices? That's partially true, Denise replied calmly. I worked as a janitor for 2 years. Before that, I worked as a freelance security consultant while completing my master's degree at MIT. I have 7 years of practical experience in cybersecurity, along with advanced academic credentials. The janitorial position was necessary to provide steady income and benefits for my family, but it didn't diminish my technical expertise, which I maintained through consistent freelance work and ongoing education. But surely someone with your supposed qualifications could have found better employment? Martha objected before Denise could answer. Your Honor, the witness's employment history is not on trial here. Mr. Morrison's sabotage is. Sustained. Move on, counselor. The lawyer tried different angles but nothing worked. Denise had answers for everything, backed by documentation and technical expertise that was unassailable. By the end of her testimony, even the judge seemed impressed. Richard watched from the gallery, his heart swelling with pride and love. This woman, this extraordinary person who had saved his company and captured his heart, was now defending both with quiet dignity and undeniable competence. He had never admired anyone more. When the judge ruled in their favor 2 weeks later, awarding Patterson Solutions significant damages and dismissing Frank's claims entirely, Richard felt vindication and relief. But more than that, he felt gratitude. For Denise, for her brilliance, for the second chance she had given him at both professional success and personal happiness. That evening they celebrated with dinner at an upscale restaurant, just the two of them. Richard had a speech prepared, things he wanted to say about gratitude and future plans. But when he looked across the table at Denise, radiant in a red dress that made her skin glow, wearing the confidence of someone who had just triumphed over adversity, words failed him. What? Denise asked, smiling at his expression. Why are you looking at me like that? Because I love you. Because you're amazing. Because I can't believe how lucky I am that you stopped to help a desperate man sitting on his office floor months ago. Best decision I ever made, Denise said warmly. Though I'll admit, I had no idea that night would lead to all this. A career I love, a company I'm proud of, and you. Especially you. About that, Richard said, his heart starting to race. He had planned to wait to give them more time, but suddenly waiting felt unnecessary. They had already faced so much together. What was the point of delaying what they both knew they wanted? He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Denise's eyes widened, her hand flying to her mouth. Richard, what are you doing? Something possibly crazy but feels absolutely right. He opened the box, revealing a simple but elegant diamond ring. Denise Williams, I know we said 6 months. I know we agreed to wait. But I've never been more certain of anything in my life. You are my partner, my best friend, my love. You challenged me to be better while accepting me exactly as I am. You saved my company, yes, but more importantly, you saved me. You reminded me what truly matters. Integrity, kindness, recognizing worth in unexpected places. I don't want to wait to start building our future together. I want to start now. Will you marry me? Tears streamed down Denise's face, but she was smiling brilliantly. You're right, this is possibly crazy. We've only been dating for a few months. Conventional wisdom says we should wait, be practical, take more time. Richard's heart sank slightly. But conventional wisdom doesn't apply to us. Nothing about our relationship has been conventional. Why start now? She laughed through her tears. Yes, Richard. Yes, I'll marry you. With my whole heart, yes. Richard stood and moved to her side of the table, slipping the ring onto her finger as other diners began to notice and applaud. He didn't care about the attention. All he cared about was this moment, this woman, this promise of forever they were making to each other. They kissed, long and deep, celebrating not just their engagement but everything that had led them here. The crisis that could have destroyed everything. The offer of help that changed 2 lives. The slow building of trust and friendship that blossomed into love. The challenges they had faced together and overcome. When they finally pulled apart, Denise was laughing and crying simultaneously. Amber is going to lose her mind. Can we call her? I need to tell her right now. Of course. Call her. Denise pulled out her phone with shaking hands, hitting Amber's number on speed dial. Her sister answered on the first ring. Denise? What's wrong? You never call this late unless something's wrong. Nothing's wrong. Everything's right. Amber, Richard just proposed. We're getting married. The shriek that came through the phone was so loud that nearby diners looked over in alarm. Denise and Richard both laughed as Amber's excited voice became incomprehensible. Just happy sounds and what might have been words if she could calm down enough to form them. Amber, breathe, Denise said, still laughing. Are you okay? 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 My sister is marrying a wonderful man who treats her like a queen. I'm better than okay, I'm ecstatic. When? Where? Can I help plan? Oh my gosh, I'm going to be a bridesmaid, right? Or maid of honor. Whatever, I don't care, I just want to be involved in everything. We literally got engaged 5 minutes ago. We haven't planned anything yet. Well, start planning. I want details. I want dates. I want to know everything. Amber paused, then her voice softened. I'm so happy for you, Denise. You deserve this. You deserve someone who sees how special you are. Mom and Dad would be so proud. Denise wiped fresh tears from her cheeks. I wish they were here to see this. They are, Amber said gently. I'm sure of it. They're watching and cheering and probably crying happy tears just like I am. Congratulations, sis. And Richard, if you're listening, welcome to the family. I hope you're ready for a lifetime of Williams women keeping you on your toes. I can't wait, Richard said, loud enough for Amber to hear. They talked for a few more minutes before ending the call with promises to have dinner soon to celebrate properly. When Denise finally set down her phone, she looked at Richard with so much love in her eyes it took his breath away. Are we really doing this? She asked. Getting married, building a life together, all of it? We're really doing this. Every part of it. And Denise? I promise to spend every day proving you made the right choice, saying yes. I have no doubts, she said, taking his hand and admiring the ring on her finger. This is the rightest thing I've ever done. After saying yes to helping you that night, agreeing to marry you is the easiest decision I've ever made. They finished dinner in a haze of joy, making tentative plans and talking about the future. Richard suggested a small wedding, intimate and meaningful rather than flashy. Denise agreed immediately, saying she wanted to celebrate with people who truly mattered, not impress strangers with unnecessary extravagance. What about a timeline? Richard asked. Do you want a long engagement or should we do this relatively soon? What do you want? Honestly, I'd marry you tomorrow if we could. But I also want to do this right, give you the wedding you deserve. Denise thought for a moment. What if we aim for 6 months? That gives us time to plan something beautiful but doesn't drag it out unnecessarily. Amber will still be here before she leaves for Baltimore. We can have the wedding we want without years of waiting. 6 months sounds perfect. They spent the rest of the evening in Richard's apartment, now beginning to show signs of personality as Denise had gradually added small touches. Books on the shelves, photos on the walls, warmth where there had once been sterile perfection. It was becoming a home, a place where life happened, where love grew. As they lay in bed that night, Denise traced patterns on Richard's chest, her engagement ring catching the moonlight streaming through the window. Can I tell you something? She asked quietly. Always. That night when I saw you on your office floor, I almost walked away. I had already worked a 12-hour day. I was exhausted. I had a million things to do. Walking past you and pretending I didn't see your pain would have been so much easier. But something stopped me. Maybe it was my mama's voice in my head about kindness. Maybe it was just instinct. Whatever it was, I'm grateful I listened. So am I. You saved me in every way a person can be saved. Professionally, yes. But also emotionally, spiritually, personally. You reminded me what it means to be human, to connect with another person beyond surface-level interaction. You gave me hope when I had none. And now you're giving me a future I never thought I'd have. How do I ever thank you for that? You don't need to thank me. You just need to keep being who you are. Someone who recognized my worth when others didn't. Someone who gave me opportunities I'd only dreamed about. Someone who looks at me like I'm the most precious thing in the world. That's all I need. You are the most precious thing in my world, Richard said seriously. You and the life we're building together. Everything else is just details. They fell asleep wrapped in each other's arms, two people who had found unexpected love in the most unlikely circumstances. Outside the window, the city sparkled with life and possibility. Inside, in the quiet sanctuary of their embrace, the future was already beginning. A future built on mutual respect, genuine affection, and the kind of love that starts with a simple yes and grows into something extraordinary. Tomorrow they would tell the company about their engagement. There would be celebrations and congratulations, logistics to figure out and boundaries to navigate. But tonight was just for them, for savoring this perfect moment before their lives changed again in the best possible way. And as Denise drifted off to sleep, she thought about her parents, hoping they could see her now. Happy, successful, loved, and about to marry a man who treated her like a queen. They had raised her to be strong, to work hard, to never give up on her dreams. And she hadn't. Through years of struggle and sacrifice, she had persevered. And now, finally, she was getting her reward. Not just the job or the money, though those were wonderful. The real reward was Richard. This partnership they had built. This love that had grown from crisis and kindness into something unshakable. That was the true treasure, worth more than any paycheck or title. As she fell asleep, she whispered 2 words into the darkness: thank you. Thank you to her parents for raising her right. Thank you to the universe for bringing Richard into her life. Thank you for second chances and new beginnings and the courage to say yes when opportunity knocked. And most of all, thank you for love. Real, genuine, transformative love that changes everything it touches. The kind of love she had found with Richard Patterson, the billionaire who had lost everything until his janitor changed his life in seconds. A love worth waiting for, worth fighting for, worth building an entire future around. A love that would last forever. The announcement of their engagement to the company came on a sunny Tuesday morning. Richard had called an all-staff meeting, and the conference room buzzed with speculation. Major announcements could mean anything from layoffs to acquisitions, and the staff's nervous energy was palpable. Richard stood at the front of the room with Denise beside him, both of them radiating a happiness that immediately put people at ease. Whatever this announcement was, it clearly wasn't bad news. "Good morning, everyone," Richard began, unable to suppress his smile. "Thank you for coming on short notice. I promise this will be brief and, I hope, joyful news rather than concerning. As you know, the past few months have been transformative for Patterson Solutions. We've faced challenges, emerged stronger, and positioned ourselves as leaders in our industry. Much of that success is due to the person standing beside me." He turned to look at Denise, his love for her evident to everyone watching. "Denise Williams is not only the best CTO this company could ask for, but she's also become the most important person in my life. I'm thrilled to announce that she has agreed to marry me." The room erupted in applause and cheers. Rachel Chen let out a whoop of excitement. Greg Thompson started a chant of "congratulations" that spread through the crowd. Patricia was openly crying happy tears. Denise laughed, her face flushed with joy and slight embarrassment at being the center of attention. "Thank you all. And before anyone worries, no, this won't affect our professional relationship. We're committed to maintaining the same standards and boundaries we've always had. The only difference is that now we get to share our happiness with all of you. The wedding will be in 6 months," Richard added. "We'll keep it relatively small and intimate, but we wanted to share this news with our work family because you've all been part of our journey. Your support, your hard work, your dedication to this company, it means everything to both of us." More applause, and then the meeting dissolved into congratulations and hugs. People surrounded Richard and Denise, offering well wishes and asking about wedding plans. The joy in the room was genuine and warm, a reflection of the culture they had worked hard to build. Later that day, Denise sat in her office reviewing security protocols when Patricia knocked on the door frame. "Got a minute?" the assistant asked, holding 2 cups of coffee. "For you? Always. Come in." Patricia handed her a cup and settled into the chair across from the desk. "I wanted to tell you something privately. I've worked for Richard since he started this company 8 years ago. I've watched him build an empire, work himself to exhaustion, and isolate himself from everyone. He was successful but miserable, though he'd never admit it." "I can imagine," Denise said softly. "Then you came along, and I watched him transform. Not overnight, but gradually, becoming someone lighter, happier, more human. He smiles now. He laughs. He leaves work at reasonable hours. He talks about the future with excitement instead of obligation. That's all you, Denise. You gave him his life back." "He gave me mine too," Denise replied, her throat tight with emotion. "We saved each other." "That's the best kind of love," Patricia said warmly. "The kind where both people become better versions of themselves. I just wanted you to know how grateful I am that you stopped to help him that night. How grateful we all are. You didn't just save the company. You saved the man." After Patricia left, Denise sat quietly, thinking about the journey that had led her here. From MIT graduate to struggling freelancer to janitor to CTO to engaged woman planning a wedding. It was a strange, wonderful path, full of unexpected turns and unlikely blessings. Her phone rang. It was Amber calling during a break between classes. "Hey sis, quick question. What are your colors for the wedding? Because I'm already planning my dress and I want to coordinate properly." Denise laughed. "We literally just announced it this morning. I haven't even thought about colors yet." "Well, think fast because I'm shopping this weekend. Also, have you considered a theme? Venue? Flowers? Catering? Denise, there's so much to plan and only 6 months to do it. Amber, breathe. We'll figure it all out. Besides, I don't want anything too elaborate. Just something beautiful and meaningful with the people we love most. I know. Small and intimate. But even small weddings need planning. When can we get together to start looking at options? I'm coming home this weekend. We could hit some bridal shops, maybe check out a few venues? Denise felt a wave of affection for her sister, so excited and involved. Saturday afternoon? I'll see if Richard's free too. Perfect. Oh, and Denise? I'm really proud of you. Not just for the wedding but for everything. You've worked so hard and sacrificed so much. You deserve this happiness. You deserve someone who cherishes you the way Richard does. Thank you, baby girl. That means everything to me. Saturday arrived with perfect spring weather. Richard, Denise, and Amber spent the afternoon visiting potential venues around the city. They looked at fancy hotels, historic mansions, and trendy event spaces, but nothing felt quite right. Everything was either too formal, too impersonal, or too expensive for what they wanted. This is frustrating, Amber said as they left their fifth venue of the day. Everything is either boring or over the top. Don't you have anywhere in mind that feels special to you both? Richard and Denise looked at each other, the same thought occurring to both of them simultaneously. The office rooftop, Denise said. The office rooftop, Richard echoed. Amber looked between them, confused. The Patterson Solutions building? For your wedding? Think about it, Richard explained, his excitement growing. That's where our story really began. That's where we worked side by side for weeks. That's where I first told Denise I was falling in love with her. That rooftop represents everything we've built together, professionally and personally. Plus, Denise added, it has an incredible view of the city. We could set up on the rooftop garden area, keep it simple and elegant, have the ceremony at sunset with the skyline in the background. It would be intimate, meaningful, and uniquely ours. Amber considered, then broke into a grin. You know what? That's actually perfect. It's unconventional, but that fits you both. And it has real meaning beyond just being a pretty space. I love it. So do I, Richard said, taking Denise's hand. What do you think? Do we get married where our love story started? I think it's perfect, Denise agreed. Let's do it. They spent the rest of the afternoon making plans, energized by having found the right location. Richard suggested hiring a wedding planner to handle logistics while they focused on the meaningful details. Denise agreed, grateful for help managing all the moving pieces. Over the next few months, preparations moved forward smoothly. Denise found a simple but stunning white dress that made her feel beautiful without being fussy. Richard chose a sharp gray suit that Amber approved enthusiastically. They kept the guest list small, just 50 people. Close friends, key colleagues, and of course Amber's maid of honor. The work at Patterson Solutions continued to flourish. Denise's security protocols had become industry standard, and the company was fielding requests for consulting work from major corporations. Richard and Denise made an excellent team, balancing each other's strengths and weaknesses, making decisions together with mutual respect. One evening about a month before the wedding, they sat on Richard's balcony watching the sunset. Denise was reviewing vendor contracts while Richard read a book, both of them comfortable in companionable silence. It was these quiet moments Denise treasured most, the everyday intimacy that came from building a life with someone. Richard, she said, setting down her papers. Oh, are you nervous? About the wedding, I mean. About forever. Richard looked at her, his expression serious and tender. Not even a little bit. I've never been more certain of anything. You're it for me, Denise. My person, my partner, my forever. The only thing that makes me nervous is the thought of something preventing this wedding from happening. Nothing will prevent it, Denise promised. I'm all in. Completely, totally, irreversibly in love with you and committed to building this life together. Good. Because I have something for you. Richard pulled a small wrapped package from his pocket. Early wedding present. Open it. Denise unwrapped the gift to find a leather-bound journal, expensive and beautiful. When she opened it, she saw Richard had written on the first page. For Denise, to record our adventures, dreams, and everyday miracles. May our story continue to be filled with unexpected joy. All my love, Richard. Tears welled in Denise's eyes. This is beautiful. Thank you. I thought we could take turns writing in it, documenting our journey together, the milestones and the small moments that matter. When we're old, we can look back and remember everything. I love it, and I love you. So much. They kissed as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and opportunities. But right now, in this perfect moment, everything was exactly as it should be. The weeks flew by in a blur of final preparations and mounting excitement. Denise noticed Richard becoming more animated as the wedding approached, his happiness contagious to everyone around him. At work he was focused and professional, but during their private moments he was like a kid counting down to the best day ever. 3 days before the wedding, Denise's phone rang late at night. It was Amber, her voice tight with stress. "Denise, I have a problem. My final exam got rescheduled. They moved it to the day before your wedding. I can't miss it or I'll fail the class, but if I take it, I won't get to your city until an hour before the ceremony. I'm so sorry. I feel terrible." "Hey, it's okay," Denise said, though her heart sank at the thought of not having her sister there for pre-wedding preparations. "School comes first. You take that exam and I'll see you when you get here. We'll still have the whole evening together. Are you sure? I wanted to help you get ready, be there for you all day." "I'm sure. Family is about supporting each other's priorities. Your education matters. Take the exam, ace it like I know you will, and then come celebrate with me. That's all I need." After hanging up, Denise felt tears threaten. She had imagined spending the wedding day with Amber, sharing those precious hours before the ceremony. But she meant what she said. Amber's success mattered more than tradition. Richard found her sitting on the couch, wiping her eyes. "What's wrong?" She explained about the exam, trying to keep her voice steady. Richard listened, then pulled her into his arms. "I know you're disappointed. But you handled that exactly right, putting her needs first. That's who you are, and it's one of the million reasons I love you. Besides, we'll still have Patricia, Rachel, and your friend Karen to help you get ready. And I'll be waiting at the end of that aisle, ready to marry the woman of my dreams. That's what matters most." Denise nodded against his chest, grateful for his understanding. "You're right. It'll be perfect no matter what. It'll be perfect because we'll be together. Everything else is just details." The day before the wedding arrived with flawless spring weather. The rooftop of Patterson Solutions had been transformed into a wedding paradise. White chairs arranged in neat rows faced an archway covered in soft pink roses and greenery. Twinkling lights had been strung overhead, ready to illuminate the evening ceremony. A small area had been designated for dinner and dancing afterward, elegant but intimate. Denise stood on the rooftop that afternoon, surveying the preparations with Patricia and Rachel. Everything was coming together beautifully. "It's going to be gorgeous," Rachel said, adjusting a flower arrangement. "Simple but stunning. Just like you wanted." "It's perfect," Denise agreed, her voice thick with emotion. "I can't believe this is happening tomorrow. I'm getting married. To Richard Patterson. Sometimes I still feel like I'm going to wake up and find out this was all a dream." Patricia squeezed her hand. "It's real, honey. And you deserve every bit of this happiness. Now let's get you home so you can rest. Tomorrow's going to be a big day." That evening, Denise had dinner with Karen and Rachel, her chosen attendants besides Amber. They laughed and talked, sharing stories and offering advice about marriage. It was exactly what Denise needed, a calm evening with good friends before the whirlwind of the wedding day. "Are you nervous?" Karen asked over dessert. "Not about marrying Richard. That's the easiest part. I'm a little nervous about being the center of attention, about everyone watching me. But mostly I'm just excited. Ready to start this new chapter." "He's a good man," Rachel said. "I've seen how he looks at you, how he respects your expertise and values your input. You two are partners in the truest sense. That's rare and special." The next morning dawned clear and warm, perfect weather for an outdoor ceremony. Denise woke early, too excited to sleep, and spent the morning alternating between giddy anticipation and moments of tearful emotion. She thought about her parents, wishing desperately they could be there. But she felt their presence somehow, their love and blessings surrounding her. At noon, Patricia, Karen, and Rachel arrived at her apartment to help her prepare. They did her hair in elegant curls, her makeup natural but radiant, helping her into the beautiful white dress that made her feel like a princess. When Denise looked at herself in the mirror, she barely recognized the woman staring back. She looked happy, confident, beautiful, ready. Her phone buzzed with a text from Amber. "Just finished the exam. Heading to the airport now. I'll be there in time, I promise. Love you so much. Mom and Dad would be so proud. See you soon." Denise felt relief flood through her. Amber would make it. Her sister would be there after all. At 5:30, they arrived at the Patterson Solutions building. The venue looked even more magical than the day before, with the golden afternoon light casting everything in a warm glow. Guests were beginning to arrive, finding their seats and chatting quietly. In a private office converted to a bridal room, Denise waited with her attendants. She was calm now, all nervousness replaced by certainty. This was right. This was exactly where she was supposed to be. A knock on the door made her turn. Amber burst in, still wearing her travel clothes but carrying her bridesmaid dress. I made it. The exam ran long and my flight was delayed, but I'm here. Give me 10 minutes to change and I'll be ready. Denise hugged her sister tightly. You made it? Thank you for getting here. How was the exam? Aced it, obviously, Amber said with a grin. But we can talk about that later. Right now we have a wedding to attend. Your wedding. I'm going to get you married. True to her word, Amber changed in record time, emerging in her soft pink dress looking beautiful and excited. She took Denise's hands, tears already starting. You look perfect. Absolutely perfect. Are you ready to do this? So ready. At 6 o'clock, as the sun began its descent toward the horizon, the music started. Patricia, Rachel, and Karen walked down the aisle first, followed by Amber. Then it was Denise's turn. She stepped onto the rooftop and saw Richard waiting at the end of the aisle. He wore his gray suit perfectly, but it was his expression that made her heart soar. Love, wonder, joy, all visible on his face as he watched her approach. She had never seen anyone look at her the way Richard looked at her in that moment, like she was the most precious thing in his world. Denise walked down the aisle alone, holding a simple bouquet of sunflowers. She had no one to give her away because she was giving herself, freely and joyfully, to the man she loved. With each step, she left behind the struggles and sacrifices of her past and walked toward a future bright with promise. When she reached Richard, he took her hands and she saw tears glimmering in his eyes. You're so beautiful, he whispered. I'm the luckiest man alive. We're both lucky, she whispered back. We found each other when we both needed saving. The ceremony was simple and heartfelt. They had written their own vows, promising to support each other's dreams, face challenges together, choose kindness and honesty always, and build a life filled with love and purpose. When Richard said, I, Richard, take you, Denise, to be my wife, my partner, my best friend. I promise to see you always, to value you completely, and to love you forever. Denise felt tears stream down her face. Her own vows were equally moving. I, Denise, take you, Richard, to be my husband, my equal, my love. I promise to challenge you, support you, laugh with you, and dream with you. I promise to say yes to adventure and yes to the quiet moments. Yes to everything we're building together. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Richard pulled Denise close and kissed her deeply while their guests erupted in applause and cheers. The kiss was passionate but tender, a perfect expression of everything they felt. As they walked back down the aisle hand in hand, now married, the sun set behind them, painting the sky in brilliant colors. It was a moment of perfect beauty, a transition from one phase of life to another, marked by light and love and the support of people who cared about them. The reception that followed was joyful and relaxed. Good food, better company, and heartfelt toasts that had everyone laughing and crying. Amber's maid of honor speech was funny and touching, talking about watching her sister sacrifice everything for family and finally finding someone who gave back that same devotion. As Richard and Denise had their first dance, he pulled her close and whispered in her ear, "Thank you for saying yes. To helping me that night, to dating me, to marrying me. Thank you for choosing this life with me. Thank you for seeing me," Denise whispered back. "For recognizing my worth when I was invisible to everyone else. For giving me opportunities I'd only dreamed about. For loving me so completely." They danced surrounded by twinkling lights and the love of their closest friends and family, two people who had found each other in crisis and built something extraordinary from that unlikely beginning. And as they swayed together under the stars, both of them knew this was just the beginning. The best was yet to come. Adventures and challenges, joys and sorrows, everyday miracles and grand celebrations. All of it waiting to be lived together as partners in every sense of the word. The billionaire who had lost everything and the janitor who turned out to be extraordinary. Now husband and wife, ready to face whatever came next, secure in the knowledge that love, real love built on mutual respect and genuine connection, could overcome anything. Their story had started with a crisis and a choice to help. It continued with hard work and growing affection. And now it was entering its most beautiful chapter yet, forever together, building a life that honored both their pasts and celebrated their shared future. A future bright with hope, rich with love and full of endless possibility. Perfect in every way. 6 months after the wedding, Denise stood in the living room of the house she and Richard had just purchased together, surrounded by boxes and furniture waiting to be arranged. The space was larger than anywhere she had ever lived, with huge windows flooding the rooms with natural light and a backyard big enough for the garden she had always dreamed of planting. Richard came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist and resting his chin on her shoulder. "What are you thinking about, Mrs. Patterson?" Denise smiled at the name, still getting used to the sound of it. "I'm thinking about how different my life is now compared to a year ago. Last year at this time I was cleaning offices and worrying about making rent. Now I'm standing in our home, married to you, with a career I love and security I never thought possible. It's almost overwhelming." "Good overwhelming or bad overwhelming?" "Definitely good. Just a lot to process. Sometimes I feel like I need to pinch myself." Richard turned her around to face him. "You don't need to pinch yourself. This is real. This is your life now, our life. And it's only going to get better from here." "How could it possibly get better?" Richard smiled mysteriously. "I have some news. Patterson Solutions just got an offer to expand internationally. We're being asked to open offices in London and Singapore to handle European and Asian clients. It's a huge opportunity, one that would triple our revenue and establish us as a truly global company." Denise's eyes widened. "That's incredible. Richard, that would change everything for us." "It would. And I wouldn't make this decision without you. You're not just my wife, you're my partner in the business. This affects you as much as it affects me. What do you think? Are we ready for that level of expansion?" Denise considered carefully, her analytical mind running through the implications. "From a security standpoint, we'd need to hire local teams and adapt our protocols for international data protection laws. It's doable but complex. We'd probably need to travel frequently, at least initially, to set up operations and train staff." "And personally? How do you feel about the travel and time commitment?" "I think it's exciting. A chance to build something even bigger than what we've already created. As long as we do it together, I'm in." Richard kissed her forehead. "Together. Always together. That's how we do everything from now on." Over the next few months, they threw themselves into the international expansion. Denise traveled to London first, spending 2 weeks setting up security operations and hiring a local team. She discovered she loved the challenge of adapting systems for different regulatory environments, the intellectual puzzle of making complex technology work across borders and cultures. When she returned home, Richard left for Singapore to establish operations there. They hated being apart but video called every night, sharing details of their days and counting down until they could be together again. The separation made their reunions even sweeter, and they fell into each other's arms each time with renewed appreciation for what they had. Amber visited during her spring break, now thriving in her first year of medical school. She marveled at the house, the success, the obvious happiness of her sister and brother-in-law. "You two are disgustingly in love," she announced over dinner one evening, but she was grinning. "It's actually really sweet. Richard, you're good for her. She smiles all the time now." "She's good for me too," Richard said, reaching for Denise's hand across the table. "Best thing that ever happened to me." "Okay, but seriously, when are you having kids? Because I'm going to be an amazing aunt and I need nephews or nieces to spoil immediately." Denise laughed. "We've talked about it. Probably in a year or two, once the international offices are stable and we have more time to focus on family. But we definitely want children," Richard added. 2 or 3 hopefully. "We want to build a family together." Amber squealed with delight. "I can't wait. Your kids are going to be gorgeous and brilliant and have the best parents ever." Later that night, after Amber had gone to bed in one of the guest rooms, Richard and Denise sat in their backyard looking at the stars. The garden Denise had planted was starting to grow, small shoots of flowers and vegetables pushing up through the soil. "Do you miss it sometimes?" Richard asked quietly. "The simplicity of your old life before everything changed?" Denise thought about it honestly. "Sometimes I miss the clarity of purpose, knowing exactly what I needed to do each day. Life was simpler when it was just me and Amber figuring things out. But I don't miss the stress or the constant worry or feeling invisible. This life, our life, it's complicated sometimes, but it's rich and full and meaningful. I wouldn't trade it for anything. Even on the hard days? Especially on the hard days. Because on those days I have you to lean on. We face challenges together, which makes them manageable. That's what partnership means." Patterson Solutions continued to thrive under their joint leadership. The London office exceeded projections in its first quarter. The Singapore office was building an impressive client roster. Back home, the original team had grown to over 200 employees, all committed to the culture of respect and excellence Richard and Denise had cultivated. One afternoon, Richard called Denise into his office looking unusually serious. She sat down concerned. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. Actually, something's very right. I've been thinking about the company's structure, about succession planning and long-term sustainability. And I realized that Patterson Solutions isn't just my company anymore. It's our company built on your expertise as much as my initial vision. So I talked to our lawyers and had papers drawn up." He handed her a folder. Inside were documents transferring 45% of his company shares to her name, making them nearly equal partners in ownership as well as operation. "Richard, I can't accept this," Denise said even as tears filled her eyes. "This is too much." "It's not too much. It's exactly right. You saved this company. You transformed it. You've worked alongside me every day to build what we have now. You deserve to share in the ownership, not just the work. Besides, we're married. What's mine is yours anyway. This just makes it official from a business standpoint." "Are you sure?" "Completely sure. You're not just my CTO or my wife. You're my full partner in every sense. This is your company as much as it's mine. Actually, I'm thinking we should rename it. Patterson Solutions doesn't reflect that anymore. What do you think about Patterson-Williams Innovations?" Denise stared at him, overwhelmed. "You want to put my name on the company?" "I want our names on the company. A true partnership visible to everyone. What do you say?" "I say yes. Always yes when it comes to building our future together." The rebranding happened quickly, and Patterson-Williams Innovations launched with a new logo and renewed energy. The press covered the story, fascinated by the tale of the janitor turned CTO who was now co-owner of a major tech firm. Interview requests poured in, but Richard and Denise were selective, only accepting opportunities to share their story in ways that highlighted the importance of recognizing overlooked talent and valuing diversity in tech. One evening, they did a joint interview with a major business magazine. The reporter asked the question everyone wanted to know. "Ms. Williams, what advice would you give to other women, particularly women of color, who are working in positions beneath their qualifications?" Denise thought carefully before answering. "I'd say this: your circumstances don't define your worth. I spent 2 years cleaning offices while holding a master's degree from MIT, and at times I felt invisible and defeated. But I never stopped maintaining my skills. I freelanced when I could, stayed current on industry developments, and most importantly, I stayed ready. So when opportunity knocked in the most unexpected way, I was prepared to answer. Stay ready, stay hopeful, and remember that the right opportunity often comes from the most unlikely places." "And Mr. Patterson," the reporter turned to Richard, "what made you willing to take such a risk on someone with an unconventional background?" "I didn't see it as a risk. I saw it as recognizing obvious talent. Denise had the credentials, the expertise, and the character. The only reason she wasn't already in a position like this was because others had failed to look past surface appearances. My advice to other business leaders is this: talent exists everywhere, often in people you're overlooking because they don't fit your expected profile. Some of the best hires you'll ever make will be people who took unconventional paths to reach you. Judge people by their capabilities, not their current circumstances." The interview went viral, sparking conversations about hiring practices and hidden talent across the industry. Richard and Denise received hundreds of messages from people sharing similar stories of being underestimated or overlooked. Many specifically thanked them for highlighting the importance of looking beyond traditional credentials to see a person's true potential. About a year after their wedding, Denise started feeling unusually tired. At first, she attributed it to the demanding travel schedule and long hours building the international offices. But when the fatigue persisted along with other symptoms, she took a pregnancy test. Positive. She stared at the little plus sign, a mix of joy and nervousness washing over her. They had talked about children, planned for them eventually, but this felt sudden despite being wonderful. She and Richard were ready, she knew they were, but the reality of it hit her hard. That evening she planned a special dinner at home. She bought Richard's favorite wine for him and sparkling cider for herself, cooked his favorite meal, and set the table with candles and flowers. When Richard came home and saw the setup, he raised his eyebrows. "What's the occasion? Did I forget an anniversary?" "No forgotten anniversaries. But I do have some news." Denise handed him a small wrapped box. Inside, Richard found a tiny pair of baby shoes. He looked at them, confused for a moment, then understanding dawned on his face. His eyes went wide, his mouth falling open. Are we? "We're having a baby," Denise confirmed, tears and laughter mixing in her voice. "Surprise." Richard let out a shout of pure joy and swept her up into his arms. spinning her around before carefully setting her down and placing his hand on her still flat stomach. We're having a baby. Denise, we're going to be parents. I know. Isn't it terrifying and wonderful? It's perfect. You're perfect. This is perfect. He kissed her deeply, then pulled back with sudden concern. Are you okay? How are you feeling? Do you need to sit down? Should you be standing? Denise laughed at his instant overprotectiveness. I'm fine. Tired and a little nauseous, but fine. The baby's fine. Everything's fine. You can stop panicking now. I'm not panicking. I'm excited. There's a difference. But his hands were shaking as he led her to the couch and made her sit down. We need to call Amber. And a doctor. And we should probably start looking at baby furniture. Do we need to move? Is this house big enough? Should I be doing something right now? Richard. Denise took his face in her hands, smiling at his adorable anxiety. We have time. Babies take 9 months to arrive. We'll figure everything out step by step together just like we always do. For now, let's just enjoy this moment. We're going to be parents. We're starting a family. Richard took a deep breath, calming himself. You're right. We have time. And we'll be amazing parents because we'll do it together. He pulled her close, resting his hand on her stomach again. I love you so much, Denise. Thank you for this incredible gift. I love you too. And Richard? You're going to be an amazing father. The pregnancy progressed smoothly, and Denise worked right up until her 8th month before finally agreeing to take maternity leave. Richard was incredibly attentive, attending every doctor's appointment, reading every parenting book he could find, and generally driving Denise crazy with his hovering. But she loved him for it, loved his excitement and dedication to becoming the best father possible. Amber came home for the delivery, arriving 2 days before Denise's due date with bags full of baby gifts and an excitement that matched Richard's. When Denise went into labor, both Richard and Amber were there, supporting her through the long hours of delivery. At 3:27 a.m. on a Tuesday morning, James Patterson was born, weighing 7 pounds and 2 ounces, with his mother's eyes and his father's determination. When the nurse placed him in Denise's arms, she looked down at her son and felt her heart expand in ways she hadn't known were possible. He's perfect, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. He's ours, Richard added, his own voice choked with emotion. Our son. I can't believe he's real. Amber stood beside the bed, crying and taking photos. He's beautiful. You two made a perfect human. I'm so proud of you both. The first few months of parenthood were exhausting and wonderful. Richard and Denise took turns with night feedings, learning together how to soothe a crying baby and decode what different cries meant. They made mistakes and figured things out, supported each other through the challenging moments, and celebrated every small milestone. Richard proved to be a natural father, patient and gentle with James. He sang silly songs during diaper changes, read stories even though James was too young to understand, and stared at his son with unconcealed wonder. Denise watched them together and fell even more in love with her husband, seeing this new dimension of him. Patterson-Williams innovations continued to grow, but both Richard and Denise had adjusted their priorities. They worked from home more often, delegated responsibilities to their excellent team, and made sure to be present for their son. The company was important, but family was essential. When James was 6 months old, they held a small ceremony in their backyard. Friends and family gathered while Richard and Denise planted a tree in honor of Denise's parents. This tree represents legacy, Denise said, holding James in her arms while Richard shoveled dirt around the young sapling. My parents built a foundation of love, kindness, and hard work. They taught me to value people over possessions, character over credentials, integrity over everything. I want my son to grow up knowing his grandparents through the values they lived by. This tree will grow as he grows, a reminder that love and family are the roots that support everything else. There wasn't a dry eye in the gathering. Amber stood beside Denise, holding her free hand, creating a chain of connection between past and future. This was family in its truest form, honoring those who came before while nurturing those still growing. As the years passed, the Patterson-Williams family continued to flourish. James grew into a curious, kind toddler who loved books and building blocks. 2 years later, they welcomed a daughter, Sarah, who had her father's determination and her mother's quick smile. Amber finished medical school and started her residency, visiting as often as her demanding schedule allowed and spoiling her niece and nephew with enthusiasm. Patterson-Williams Innovations became one of the top cybersecurity firms globally, with offices on 4 continents and a reputation for both excellence and ethical business practices. Richard and Denise ran the company as true partners, their complementary skills and shared values creating a culture that attracted the best talent and inspired fierce loyalty. But their greatest success wasn't measured in revenue or recognition. It was measured in the family dinners where they laughed together, the bedtime stories that became treasured traditions, the quiet moments when Richard and Denise would look at each other across the room and remember everything they had built together. One evening, 5 years after that fateful night when a desperate billionaire met an extraordinary janitor, Richard and Denise sat on their porch swing watching their children play in the garden. James was teaching Sarah how to plant seeds, his serious face and gentle instructions making both parents smile. "Do you remember that night?" Richard asked, pulling Denise closer. "When I was sitting on my office floor ready to give up on everything?" I remember thinking you needed help and deciding to offer it, even though I was exhausted and had every reason to just go home. I'm so grateful you stopped. That you saw past my circumstances to the person underneath. That you offered your help without hesitation." Denise turned to look at him, this man who had become her whole world. "I'm grateful you accepted. That you were humble enough to receive help from an unlikely source. That you valued my expertise enough to give me opportunities I'd only dreamed about. We saved each other that night. We did. And we've been saving each other ever since in small ways and big ones. That's what love is, I think. Choosing every day to see each other's worth, to support each other's dreams, to build something together that's stronger than anything we could create alone." Richard kissed her tenderly, a promise and a reminder of everything they had overcome and achieved together. "I love you, Denise Patterson Williams. You changed my life in seconds that night, and you continue to change it for the better every day. I love you too. Always." They sat together as the sun set, watching their children play, surrounded by the life they had built through kindness, hope and love. It had started with a crisis and a choice to help. It had grown through hard work and genuine respect. And it had blossomed into something extraordinary. A family, a partnership, a love story that proved miracles happen when you say yes to unlikely opportunities. The billionaire who lost everything had found something infinitely more valuable than wealth: connection, purpose, love. The janitor who had been invisible became someone whose impact was felt throughout an entire industry. Together they had built not just a successful company but a meaningful life, rich with love and possibility. And every day they chose each other. Every day they chose kindness. Every day they chose hope. And that made all the